Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a crypto, Ko-Fi, Patreon, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Todd Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M. Iron26, Endless, Golden McKeon, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Cannabear, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels Banter, Mel B. Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W., Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever's in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hello?
Hello. Just having a quick glance at the other Discord servers, and there's no one in any of them.
Yeah, the topic is losing juice. I've been noticing that.
You think so?
Absolutely.
I disagree with that.
Hello, good morning,
I
everyone.
disagree too, but let's hear what Neil's got to say.
Well, look back at 3-4 years ago. There was 30 people at all times on this Discord server until that time it got shut down. Then it changed everything. There was always people waiting in the wings to get in. Now it just seems like it's lost, I don't know. Could be me.
Well, we're done debunking the globe. We are proving the flat Earth now. And some of these servers, they don't have the arguments yet.
Yeah, that'll take a bit of time. But they just need to see it being effective from us. That's the only way for that to happen.
I can't believe you spent 9 hours in a, was that Earth Awakenings?
No, it was politics server.
Now, see, that throws a monkey wrench in my whole idea that's getting a little stale, right? Spending 9 hours in one day. So maybe it varies. Some days it's like the energy we had way back when. And then some days it's like,
Every day is different. You look at it in terms of the all-encompassing subject matter. I don't. I just look at it as what am I doing today on YouTube?
I didn't get that last part, Nathan.
I said I just think about what I'm going to do on my show, and obviously there's lots of people interested in the subject that we cover on the show. Therefore, there's always going to be something to talk about. That guy that I was making as a comparison, for example, see if I can find my iPad. I'll get his name this time. Yesterday, do you remember I gave you some political guy that did a good job of covering a few bases in a debate? Well, he actually got asked about flat Earth, which I thought was quite interesting, because I think the question he was asked was, have you looked into it? And his answer was, the Earth is not flat. I've been up in an aeroplane. That was his answer. And then he waved, literally hand waved the person asking the question off the podium. So I thought that was quite amusing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
So he was asked a question, and he said he's been up on a plane, and he hand waved what?
The guy asking him the question, it was the guy that I was saying, I used him in a comparison yesterday when I was talking about a guy who sits outside universities. Do you remember?
Yes.
I'll see if I can find his name. Give me a minute.
That seems to be their nobody's facing the what we put forth here. I don't want to call it arguments because it's not arguments, it's facts. But nobody wants to address the facts. Yesterday, I was taking my son to the dentist and I was playing the show from the politics server was on. And my son's in the back. Everything that we're saying, he's telling my other two sons, this is a false dichotomy, what they're saying right now. I'm like, Jacob, it's not a false dichotomy. What are you talking about? He's explaining how you need a flat baseline. That Earth is measured flat. You could prove it with celestial navigation.
Hey,
And
Brian.
airplanes as well. Any type of navigation will do that up and down into respect to a horizontal plane.
Yeah, but at the time, Nathan was talking about celestial navigation, so I was sticking there.
They can't talk about celestial navigation.
Yeah, if you're a baller, you can't. You're right. And that's what I told them. I said, you're not even in this conversation because you have to recognize that Earth is flat. If you're not a flat earther, you're not in this conversation.
They're going to have a reference to the Cartesian system. And that on its own is ultimate proof of a flat plane.
That's correct, and it was a time when Nathan was had the grid on. It was when the guy was coming with his supposed model, and Nathan put it up, and it had the whole grid system on there. So it was all flat.
Yeah, longitude and latitude is a horizontal plane.
Yeah, so I showed my other son. I said, I want you to pay attention what you're looking at. You see this big ball in the middle, but look at the grid. All straight lines.
Yeah, I was thinking about like Andrew Thomas Young's paper, making grading it.
Yeah, but even there it says that all the measurements were done on a plane.
Right? They did measurements on a plane.
Yeah, well, they don't deny that. They agree with that. But there was a time when they agreed with that we would just like overlook it. Not no more.
No, but the measurements and how the measurements are applied to get what they call refractive effects, like looming and stuff, was done on a flat plane. So the things we observe are on a flat plane. I just want to go through his paper and point that out.
Yeah, I agree with that. All types of refraction are into relationship to the plane.
Look, boss, the
It's not
plane.
refraction. It's not refraction. It's something else.
I mean, stooping and looming, all of that phenomena it's observed, and the distinction between them, it's in relationship to the horizontal plane. Even Snell's law is in the horizontal.
Well, the thing is, it's not Snell's law. There's not two mediums. It's something else that's happening, and they're calling refraction.
So what is it?
Monofraction? I don't know.
7/6 of a radius value.
No, that's not happening.
No, Neil said,
But-
what is it? It's 7/6 of a flat Earth derived radial value.
No, I'm asking John. If they're saying it's not that, then what is it?
You're missing my point. What they're saying isn't that relevant. How they defend what it is, which is what you asked, is irrelevant. What it
Oh,
is
I got you.
is all that matters. What is terrestrial refraction in this instance? It's a mathematical derivation of an R value measured off a flat plane at 7/6 of that value. That's what it actually is in standard format. What they say about how the world appears to them is irrelevant, because that isn't what terrestrial refraction is when utilised in Earth curve mathematics. Earth curve mathematics being the differential between surface level, which is flat, and eye level at elevation. That's what Earth curve maths is. Their R value is the minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris, to give them an equatorial outside edge of a sphere. That's what it is. So, in, I don't know, recent times, I've become more and more aware that what they say in debate is irrelevant. Should have been more acutely obvious when Simon Dan said you and your reference frames are ruined. What they say is irrelevant. What is the globe Earth rhetoric? And the danger is that when you focus on that, you end up spending most of your time as a flat earther pointing out to the people you argue with how they don't understand their own bloody rhetoric and how they should understand it. So therefore you end up explaining their rhetoric to them.
Right.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that 7/6 R just give them a bigger circle on the plane.
Yeah, it increases the sphere Earth size, yeah. Flattens it out, if you will.
How are you?
Good
Very
morning,
well.
everyone.
Hello, how are things? John is still your pet.
Don't start this. We already did that yesterday show. I dug out that clip. I've already forgotten the guy's bloody name. Charlie something or other. Charlie Kirk. So in one of the examples, I can't remember the exact just juxtaposition because he was a sort of sideline to a different example when showing how not to debate people. Again, I can't exactly recall the example I was giving at the time. But he came up as an example, or as part of an example. And like I say, couldn't remember his name. So Charlie Kirk, I believe, is his name. It was hard to find it because people who trim out his clips might be him, don't include his own name in the titles and such like. So he's just some random guy in a shorts video until you actually look him up and then find someone else's trimmed out short and then find out someone else's linked video with him in that actually does have one part of his name. And eventually I found my way to him. Now, why have I brought him up? Well, because although I'm pretty sure I was quite complimentary about him yesterday, it was notwithstanding this clip that I'd already seen, to be perfectly honest. But he was actually challenged at one stage about flat Earth. Not by challenged to demonstrate his knowledge. Now, in previous debates, this Charlie Kirk guy has challenged various woke people, let's just say, in terms of their complete lack of evidence that they would stack up for their assertions. Now, in this particular instance, he's asked about flat Earth and asked, or the guy speaking to him inquires on a podium if he's looked into it. That's really what the basis of the question is. Have you looked into the subject? And it seemed to me like more of an appeal to say, look, you seem like an authority on this subject. I'm reading between the lines. Let's not do that. We'll get to the clip in a minute. But as I told Neil in the pre-show, he basically hand waves the guy away, and in a manner of, not even a manner of speaking, he quite literally points him off the stage, or off the podium, I should say. So I don't know if you want to start with that. If you want to start with a bit of housekeeping, it's up to you. You guys decide on the G Plus panel. I think I'll throw it to, I don't know, randomly refracted. John, you decide.
Don't know.
Bit of housekeeping,
Okay.
or should we get straight into this clip? It's only short, so hence me wanting to drag it out to a certain degree.
We can do both, can't we?
I think so.
Okay.
We did gravity and science and stuff yesterday, so any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What would you take as evidence?
A tape measure?
Would measuring angular sizes and trying to compare them via pre-assumption. Would that work for you?
No. I mean, you can get certain aspects of GP positions, but in terms of the angular information, that's not useful unless you can actually get the height or the distance. But you're not getting the distance. You're getting the distance to the point below it, which isn't the distance. Why would we, just out of interest, why would we be calculating this? Us, you or I, why would we want to do this?
Well, I'm just asking, like, if I was to pre-assume I was on a globe out, and I was to pre-assume that the light in the sky that I call Venus was about almost exactly the same size as that globe out and was also a sphere, then when it was transiting the sun, right? If I compared its angular size to the angular size of the sun, and I pre-assumed that it was the same size as the globe I pre-assumed I was standing on, right, which is a radius of 3959 miles, and I compare that with the angular size of the sun, then it could give you a distance. But if you won't accept that, then I don't have anything.
I don't think you actually need the transit of Venus, do you? You just need Huygens' assumption and Kepler's third law. So I think that's part.
You
for the
just
scale,
need the angular sizes and several pre-assumptions. That's all you need.
No.
You don't need any of that nonsense.
You say that. Just think it through a second.
You don't need any of that. None of that is needed. Absolutely none of that is needed.
Am I correct or not? You don't need to blag that you're doing something when you observe the occultation of the sun by Venus, right? All you need is an actual size. And you get that from Huygens. You did it at the beginning when you went, if I assume Venus is the same size as Earth, you're just doing what Huygens did. But at that point, you've got everything you need because Kepler's giving you the scale, isn't he? The transit doesn't give you scale, as far as unless I'm very much mistaken.
No, the scale is the angular sizes.
No, it isn't.
The pre-assumption.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No,
yes,
the angular size is just no. That's wrong. Stop.
Yes.
Everyone stop.
The scale is the assumed thing. So when you assume that Venus is the same as Earth, that is your scalar.
Exactly. That's the scalar. So there's a blag in the story that there's somehow some relevance or importance to you getting its angular size. It's like Kepler, is it Kepler? Yeah, Kepler's done all that for you. His interplanetary motion is scalable. That is to say that prior to Huygens, you could have, I'm sure we did in the rhetoric at some point, have different distances to the sun. Because by scale, you can slide it up, you can slide it down. You just need to fix a value. And that's got sod all to do with occultation of Venus and the sun, or by the sun if that's what you're going to claim it's happening, and the angular size of any of these objects. You need an actual size. The moment Huygens inserts the R value of the Earth to the R value of Venus, jobs are good and you've got everything you need. Then you just need a little whimsical story to make it seem like Huygens is doing something practical in the real world when he just arbitrarily inserts that R value into the maths. So as far as I'm concerned, it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, but that you didn't listen to what I said, right? I said, no, all you need is angular sizes and several pre-assumptions. You missed the several pre-assumptions part.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. You need the angular sizes to do the scaling.
Do the same thing with anything.
Yeah, you need the angles because that's what Kepler's dealing with prior to giving anything any values of size or distance. He's just got the angular sizes and the angle relationships. That's all he's got.
You were right about the scalar when you said, no, you need to have an actual... Yeah, okay. You'd have to scale... But the scalar is actually globe out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's us. It's R. It's the actual scale is the elevation angle to Polaris at its minimum. That's the real scalar, isn't it?
Yes, that's the real scalar. You know, that's where the scalar is the globe out. The pre-assumption that we're on a globe of a particular size. That is the actual scalar. Well, I'm not arguing with you. Like you were right when you said the scalar was. Because I actually thought you were arguing against me saying that they use angular sizes. I was like, no, that's what they do. I was like, I'm clearly going to go again. Actually, mathematically prove it to you.
Not at all. No, that's just part of the story, isn't it? So that the person reading the story sees it and thinks, oh, right. So Huygens, he's got his tools out. He's measuring stuff. He's watching the occultation. It's all very mystical, and it's all surplus to requirements. You just have to insert an actual value into Kepler's third law. That's it. Done. He doesn't have to do any observations, Kepler. Huygens, that is.
No, they just build out the story to make it seem like something really complex and important happened astronomically. Nothing happened. Literally nothing. I could have done the same. You could do the same exact thing with a little bit of knowledge of angular sizes and a piece of paper. You don't need any astronomy. You don't need that. As in, when I say you don't need any astronomy, you just need the angular sizes of Venus and the Sun. That's all you need. You know, at that time, when it's transiting the Sun, is the best time, because that's within your pre-assume of it making an orbit. It's going to be making the you know what I mean. You can say it's going to be at this exact angular size about this time of its transit. Blah blah blah. It's just making complexity out of something that's just a very simple ruse. That's all it is.
Well, I used to think, prior to realising that the data for any journey through space would require a flat plane at its heart of its measurements that haven't been taken from a globe, I thought that was the reason why they'd hide the telemetry data initially. I mean, now I know that it would just be obvious if you went through it with a fine-tooth comb that they're making their measurements off a flat plane. But to hide the Kepler's third law scale, which is to say that without Huygens' ingenious assumption of Venus having the same R value as Earth, every single journey to anywhere ever in the heliocentric religion is dependent on that actually being right, and it's totally arbitrary. Now, I'm not suggesting for one second that, with that key, the heliocentric model suddenly becomes real. It's based on flat Earth angle measurements and all of the data that we got for flat Earth in the first place, and that will never change. But I'm just saying that prior to knowing that, you think, maybe the reason they're hiding the telemetry data is because it would show up the fact that by scale, you've only got one linchpin. And if that is out by a tiny, tiny amount, then all of their claimed distances to the moon that they've travelled through, a sky vacuum that isn't also real, would be highlighted in that telemetry data. So there's a huge amount of stuff that would be in that telemetry data, because it's actually notwithstanding that point. That's still valid, even knowing that all of the telemetry data would be with respect to a flat plane, because it can't not be. But it sort of stacks up, if you know what I mean. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you wouldn't want that telemetry data out there.
That someone might be able to read it. Well, there was. See, the problem is there wasn't any telemetry data.
Of course not.
That's the problem. Do you know what I mean? The only telemetry data they could give you would be data involving a flat plane, but they can't get to the moon because, the further you go, the further away the celestials are. No matter what you do, you never get near them. So what are they going to give you? Do you know what I mean? What are they going to give you as telemetry data? It would be a continuous data that never ends because you can never seem to get. No.
I mean, if they were to give you bullshit data in the heliocentric world, which they could do, you'd still have all of the maths originating at the flat plane, wouldn't you? That's why they're holding sextants up on the ISS, because that's maybe it's a nod back to the Freemason buddies down the bar watching up and pretending to be in space. But the point is that the system itself, if they're claiming to be heliocentric, even if they're claiming to be in orbits and lying about being in space and travelling to the moon, which they absolutely have done, nobody's going to contest that. They're going to have, even in a heliocentric claim to be telemetry data base, it will be based on a flat Earth still, won't it? It's not like they're going to say, well, as we raise up towards the stars, we never get any closer to them, and the same applies to the moon, so therefore we fudge the data thus. No, they'd fudge it heliocentrically, if that's even a word.
Yeah, I don't know, because they'd have to. I don't know, because for what they're claiming, they'd have to use the equatorial plane. Yes, they would have to use the equatorial plane, but it wouldn't really show anything other than a kind of a slingshot type or S-shape type situation of how they claim to have gotten to the moon. If you look at how they claim to have gotten there, they're using gravity and Earth's rotation and the moon's orbit and all this other nonsense. So it's going to show a big kind of an S shape. But I just think that it just never. I personally think they just never bothered making it, because what's the point? It doesn't exist. I just think they never bothered putting it together.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're not in the know saying, well, I'm sure we'll get the original copies of the moon footage someday. I'm sure they're just lying that they've accidentally recorded over them. It's like, no, you're not getting it. They edited together the stage pieces that they produced to lie to you about going to a place you can't go. So that there is no quote unquote original footage. You know, the stuff that was broadcast off a wall at the
You're
main.
looking at it.
Yeah, that's it. You're looking at it. The end product. It's like imagining that a film that you're watching actually has those characters living out their life somewhere, and you could just pop in and do a like a reality TV show on those characters. It's like, no, they're brought to life one line at a time with a man shouting cut at them. It doesn't exist. And the same is true for the moon landings. There is no telemetry data. For what? It's like suggesting that name a current sci-fi space saga is the one. Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like suggesting that you could get the telemetry data out of Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's never a reason why they wouldn't put it together. It's because not only did they feel that there isn't a need because they just couldn't be bothered, it didn't happen, right? But there's a smarter reason, is that if that telemetry data was there, they'd have less excuses for the general populace as to why they're not after going back to the moon again. Do you know what I mean? Within their paradigm. Because they're claiming to have been there 50 years ago or whatever. But if they had that telemetry data, it wouldn't be so easy to just say, oh, well, we lost that technology, blah, blah, blah. But it's okay, you have the telemetry data, so you can definitely go again. Just follow that. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be a little bit more difficult. It's better off better off them just not even faking it. Just saying it's gone, they lost it, whatever, taped over it, with friends, you know what I mean? The TV show. I don't know.
Well, the actual rhetoric from NASA is to say that back in the days of the moon landing, the film itself was very, very, very expensive. And therefore, after the moon landings were done and, the excitement about it had subsided, they got reused for other projects because it was such an expensive material. That's their official line in regards to the film. It's like not that we've like literally misplaced it, because the way they'll put the narrative out is so that it can be slightly contentious and be corrected. So we lost the footage. Okay, what does that conjure in the mind's eye of the person that hears that? Oh, right, like I lost my keys the other day and ended up finding them behind the fridge. No, they haven't lost the footage. In reality, their official line, as I just explained, is that they would have been taped over, essentially. Like, that's why you came up with the friends bit. You know the official narrative, obviously, Brian, right?
Yeah, there is no trees, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
is no keys.
Well, we taped over it. It sounds awful, but it's better to be correcting someone who says, how incompetent are NASA, they lost it. Well, actually, no, they're a $50 million a day, probably $20 million a day at the time organization, and they can't afford more film. It's just absurd. But that's what they gave us as the story, having said that they lost the footage. And by lost,
they got more
mean
money back then, Nathan, believe it or not, than they do today.
They used to get more money.
Yeah, technically they got more money back then. If you go by inflation and what the dollar was worth and everything, they actually got more money back then than they do today. So they have no excuses. What they could do, if they really wanted to really rub it in, is give people the tapes that has the taped over stuff on it. A load of really boring stuff.
With a load of propaganda.
Take one of those tapes and give it to them. I mean, that'd be really having a laugh. And see if the experts of today with software can pull the telemetry data off of these tapes, off of this tape, not tapes, they'd have just one tape just to see if it would happen.
In any event, whatever their story, this is the thing. When you've had any experience with liars and looked into what they do and how they are and how they behave, you don't appeal to the liar if you sniff out a lie. Hang on a minute, where's the footage? Oh, we've got the footage here. It was broadcast. No, where's the tapes of the original footage that you recorded? Oh, we didn't. We broadcast it live by over a projector, and the media outlets had to then film that projector. Well, where's the tape that came from the projector? Well, there wasn't a tape in the projector. The projector was attached to a camera that was filming a monitor of the images, and that image went through to the projector to be projected on the wall, to be filmed by the film crew, to be broadcast out to you live. Okay, well, where's the footage that was played up on the monitor? Oh, we recorded over that. That's their story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what it is about lawyers is that as the deception detectives always says, and it's so we've know if you understood lawyers before that, you would have understood exactly what he meant. That they hold their victims in contempt, as in someone who lies to you. If they get away with it, they actually have a hatred for you, or they look down upon you because you've allowed them to lie to you. So NASA would literally look down, not all of NASA, but the higher top brass would be very much looking down upon the general populace of at least the United States and Florida as being below them or idiots or whatever. You know what I mean? They would do that because they're such unbelievable liars. Like an astronaut, like that person has to look down upon millions of people as being beneath them, and look upon them people with contempt because that person is such a liar. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I know, and everyone else here should know. There's no point in asking the lawyer why they lied because they just lie again. You know what I mean? You're wasting your time.
And it's the rigidity to the lie as well that the deception detective points out that's comparable here, or useful to point out here. When you talk to somebody who's got a story that they've just experienced, memories, they fade with time, and in your mind, things slightly alter as you don't recall things over and over again. As a consequence, when you retell a story, if somebody has a tragic event and they tell the news outlets on the day what happens, and then they go back 10 years later and re-interview them about the event, there's a good chance that various aspects of the story may change. Now, from a legal perspective, they're looking for that in a court to say, there's a deviation in your story. It's like, no, there's an aspect to it that's just natural in terms of how somebody who's not lying will just slightly deviate in terms of the information that they give out. They might give out a slightly new piece of information that you didn't hear before. You go, I didn't realise it from that point of view until you said it now because you didn't say it before. A liar, on the other hand, will stick hard and fast to what they say and never deviate, no matter how many interviews they do. It'll always be the same story because it's a scripted story about something that didn't happen. So there are no new details. There are no intricacies of the memory that are going to alter beyond the script. So that's what you get from the liars. A constant retelling of the same story every single time they're talking about it, in the same order, with the same, basic timbre and tone. You don't get any of that alteration. And that's what you get from liars. They just give you the same story. And if you find a hole in the story, they introduce a new layer to the story. And as Brian's just pointed out, whilst looking down on you with contempt. Now, how do you get out of that cycle? Stop appealing to the liars. If you are new here, let's pretend there's someone in the audience. There's how many people watching? 70 or 80 people watching, let's say. I don't know, I'll have a look. Yeah, 80 people watching. Man, I knew the number just by the time. Okay, got a consistent audience. Well done, everybody who shares the show consistently. I'm sure we'll be at 100 in the next 10 minutes. Please share the show if you haven't done so already. So, when it comes to people like NASA, and you listen to someone like, what's his name? The drunk Uncle Buzz, right? When he's out there and he's telling his stories, there's nothing exciting about what he's telling about the moon landing. There's no new information, is there? Yeah? It's all completely garbage, benign, same repeated stuff that you've heard over and over again. And the only time you ever, with astronauts, or at least in my experience from watching videos on them, get new information is when you get something cryptic. Yeah? Like with Neil Armstrong, maybe a couple of years before he died, and he's in front of a load of college students talking about the veil being lifted, talking in double-speak and cryptic words. That was the only new bit of information we ever got out of someone like Buzz or Neil Armstrong, right? There's never any, oh wow, I'm glad I went to go and see Neil Armstrong at this talk because I didn't know this aspect of the most amazing achievement in mankind's history. But you don't, do you? There's nothing like that ever.
No, I mean, if someone's a good lawyer, their lawyer will be very basic and simple. They'll have it well remembered, and they'll just regurgitate that exact thing year after year after year after year. A bad lawyer will have a story that may be somewhat similar, but they won't remember it correctly, and their story will change in a very short term. Whereas naturally, how you would describe a situation that happened to a film crew or to an audience or to anyone within a span of 15 years, 20 years, can change slightly because you have an emotional attachment to it in some form. So you're remembering it as it happened. So your description can slightly alter, but that doesn't mean you're a lawyer. It more means that you're actually being honest, more than likely.
Precisely.
Whereas a lawyer will just give you the exact same story, and it'll be a really boring story that won't. It'll be a boring story that won't ever really stick in your memory, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really remember anything the astronauts have said.
While you're on it, it's the point of deviation. So you get the person with the first-hand account of what has just happened on the scene from a police interview, say. A policeman arrives, asks the person that they are confronted with what happened, and they give them a story. So they write it down in their book. And that story might get repeated to another officer on scene. A month later, that person gets interviewed, and they give a fundamentally different story, which from that point forward never alters. Yeah? Because it's that rigid, there's no new info to add, I've decided on what my narrative's going to be, my script's set, I'm just going to repeat it from here forward. But it's like, but that's not what you told the copper on the scene. It's that kind of deviation that shows dishonesty, as opposed to, well, yeah, I was walking down the street and I'm pretty sure I was smoking a cigarette, and then I was confronted by the guy. And the next time you tell it, you're like, I just put out a cigarette up the road earlier, I remember putting it in the bin. And the person said, well, you said you were smoking a cigarette. I was. But now I just happened to remember that minor detail where I'd put it in the bin a few moments before I was confronted by my attacker. Or whatever. You know, that sort of subtle change in information doesn't radically change the story. It's just the ebb and flow of memory. Rather than, I was driving down my car and the man jumped on my bonnet. Rather than, I was parked up, I'd got out my car, and as I was locking it, the man jumped on my bonnet. You're like, hold on, these are fundamentally different stories. What's going on? Do you see what I mean? We don't get that from NASA. We just get one rigid story that never changes. It's always boring. There's never anything new. That empty feeling I used to get from science at NASA, who I'm still to this day subscribed to, right? I don't know why, but I still get their emails. And they'll send packs of information out to their subscription base, obviously, with the new information from space. Nothing's ever changed. It's never exciting. It's always the same stuff. Paintings and pictures and CGI renderings, admittedly disclaimed by them as being such. But nothing ever changes. There's no new anything at all. Just the same old, this stuff has got materials that we could be using and it's just out of reach. This is in reach, but has got no materials. That's it. That's what we get from them.
Yeah, well, every day when I see Google News or any of these kind of mainstream internet news sources, Google News is my best example because it's the one I saw the most. Every day, as you're reading down, I have to stop myself because I realize I've just read something and accepted it. This thing and moved on without questioning it. And it's always a NASA thing or something connected to NASA, like space.com, where they're talking about some nonsense happening out in outer heliocentric outer space. And I go, all right, such and such a Titan is blah 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 on the moons of blah 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 in the such and such a space, and that causes an explosion. And I go, all right, and I go, hang on a minute. I just read a load of rubbish there, because you go from one real world article, regardless of how mock news is, but at least it has some real people in it, to this nonsense, and then back to another real one. If you know what I mean. So they fit it in there, they sort it in there, so it kind of gets past the filter, or if you know what I mean, gets past your filter. So before you know it, you're after reading and kind of half accepting this complete load of nonsense. And that's how they do it. It's a daily. They have this new stories daily of absolute nonsense happening out in the heliocentric outer space sky vacuum. Every day, new stories.
Right, that was off the back of one housekeeping question, not bad. Now, at about the right time, but with a very short video, we're going to cover this Charlie Kirk video and question that he was asked, so let's just pause it. I already gave you a little preamble on this, so let's see if I can get rid of the Discord so it's a bit prettier. There we go. Let's bring up the sound and have a listen.
Earth before?
Yeah, the Earth is not flat.
Have you ever genuinely gave it a good look?
For about 30 seconds, and then I learned to do math and flew in a plane and saw a spherical Earth. Yeah.
Did it? Okay.
Really?
I'd
Hold
say
on, Neil.
maybe it's worth giving another shot at.
We'll hear it all the way through once.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so it started playing. I can never seem to catch these shorts right at the beginning. I'm just going to let it play all the way through once so you can hear the first question he gets asked, how he gets reacted to, and you saw him point him off at the end and smile. But we'll just hear it through once, okay?
I was just wondering if you've ever looked into flat Earth before.
Yeah, the Earth is not flat.
Have you ever genuinely gave it a good look?
For about 30 seconds, and then I learned to do math and flew in a plane and saw a spherical Earth. Yeah.
Did it? Okay. I mean, I'd say maybe it's worth giving another shot at.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so although you can't see it in the G+, he just literally just points the guy off stage after essentially a hand wave. Go ahead, John.
I don't think you learn to do math because the measurements are of a flat plane.
I'm glad we started there. So, Neil, can you just close your mic, please? So, we got a guy saying measurements. And that's pretty much our vibe in 2024 now, isn't it? Measurements are flat when it comes to Earth. Your rhetoric about seeing an Earth curve edge at the horizon is based on mathematics we debunked in 2020. So if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, that's derived from a flat Earth angle measurement to Polaris, as dictated in the Earth curve maths, then every horizon distance measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, exactly as your Earth curve maths, which is what you're leaning on for that claim, dictates. Distance to horizon in the Black Swan, beyond the physical geometric limitations of a sphere Earth horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the horizon's not Earth curve. Earth is not a sphere. Further to which, your own priests of heliocentrism would decry the notion that a horizon that's horizontal in nature would offer any visible Earth curve at any altitude capable of occupation by man, right up to the levels of ISS, as declared by Neil deGrasse Tyson. That stuff is flat. And the reason that stuff is flat is because the mathematics that infers you've got a geometric limitation below surface level requires surface level to be flat in the mathematics. So you can derive this inferred point of dissolution where you claim boats and buildings are blocked by a hill getting in the way. But mathematically, it's below a surface level that's flat and derived from an eye level that's also parallel with that flat plane, so that you can infer that you've got a Earth curve edge below the horizon. That's how the maths of this guy's claim that he utilizes works to infer that the horizon is Earth curve. It does not work to assert that at altitude you can see an Earth curve edge, because that is very much decried by their own priesthood when you raise in elevation. You can't have a horizon and surface level, a prerequisite and necessity for their maths, to be decried at an elevation by bending that which must be horizontal. That's the horizon. That's why Neil deGrasse Tyson decries any notion of seeing Earth curve, even at the levels of the ISS. In the x-axis, I might add. So no, you don't just fly up in a commercial aeroplane and see Earth curve. That is not possible, even if we were on a sphere, according to your own rhetoric. But your own rhetoric, that we have an inferred hill getting in the way, comes from measurements of angles to the stars, specifically Polaris, to give you a radial value, to insert into maths and assert that Earth is a sphere, based on measurements of a surface level that's flat, and a point below that surface level you call Earth curve. Now, that is about as advanced as it gets for both your heliocentric understanding that you hand-waved this gentleman who asked you simply if you had looked into it. And after hand-waving him, he asked, maybe give it another shot? Because, although he didn't say it, you were wrong. Even in your own rhetoric, if you reify that point below surface level, marked with an X and labelled horizon in your maths derived from elevation angles off a flat Earth, that we've got an Earth curve, you were wrong even in your own assertion. Now, he didn't perhaps know that, but I do. So you haven't looked into the measurements. You didn't offer evidence. You lied. Now, I held you to a high standard yesterday because of your general demeanour when it comes to people offering you up baseless assertions and bullshitting that they've done research, precisely as you dealt with this gentleman. That's all I've got to say on it. Anybody else got anything to add? That's literally all
Yeah,
I've
I
got to
do. I want to say it would have been nice if that guy would have said everything you just said. Well, maybe he doesn't know it, but once he brought up math, yeah, you nail them with their own claim. But there's nobody there to do it. So he gets away with it, and he just hand waves it away. And that's what everybody's going to do now. They're just going to wave it away like it's not there. Earth is not flat. Bye-bye.
No, I see it different. I see it as he just appealed to the common misconception that if you're a flat earther, it means you don't understand maths. And if you're a globe earther, that you're a maths whiz. This is the common trend that they want the public to accept and follow, whereas it's completely not true. It's totally not true, as we on our own panel have proven. So it's an appeal to I know how to do maths. That means I'm not stupid, which means I can't be a flat earther because flat earthers are stupid people who can't do maths. And then he brings up an airplane, right, which is a total lie. It's this thing, more or less intimating that he's seen Earth curve from an airplane, which is a total lie. And even as you were saying, within their own paradigm, Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying you wouldn't be able to see it. No, within their own paradigm, Nathan, you would be able to see something, but Neil deGrasse Tyson has to tell the world that you won't, because you can't, because it doesn't exist. So that's why Neil deGrasse Tyson is doing that.
Well, no, it's being more slippery. I have to give him credit for his tricks, right? So he's talking about x-axis rather than y-axis. So in Earth curve maths, in orthographic view, admittedly, which is presented in the x-axis, you're looking at the y-axis below the surface level drawn out from left to right, which is flat, okay? When he says it, he's talking about an aspect of Earth curve maths that would describe the horizon, which is horizontal by definition and appearance, as having a slight curve to the edges as you raise an elevation. What do I mean? I mean that obviously they can't decry the notion that as you raise an elevation, the Earth will eventually become a big ball in front of you. That is to say that the horizon, inferred to be the point below surface level and hill in the way, when using surface level as a flat plane to infer that, that is how their maths works. In Earth curve maths on Mick West's site, he has it under a special tab called Advanced Earth Curve Mathematics. And that gives you the x-axis claimed to be bending. And as per, or in line with, Neil deGrasse Tyson's assertion, he is inferring that what could be visible to the human eye at the height of the ISS, as per advanced Earth curve x-axis maths, that is to say from left to right in your vision of the horizon, which will never be anything other than horizontal, you'd never see that bending to eventually form the shape of a sphere as you raised up much, much, much higher than he suggests you'd ever see anything other than a perfectly flat horizon. So he's not lying. He's just utilising an aspect of even the mathematical calculations that are on the surface level to the public. Most will be unaware that there is actually a derivation of that maths that they call advanced maths that is describing how bent the frickin' horizon is.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand that. But the whole point of what Neil deGrasse Tyson was doing was taking away from people the idea that they're going to see Earth curve from an airplane.
Yes.
So when people go up in airplanes, they go, "I'm not going to see Earth curve." That's the outcome of it.
That's
And they don't
absolutely
expect to see
correct.
our curve because Neil deGrasse Tyson told them that they won't see our curve. Problem solved.
I
Just-
knew that before he did that skit where he slapped the ball, because that's in flat Earth terms, right? And you can listen back to my story of journey to flat earthing, if you will. One of the aspects of the story was me being a rep, being on a plane, looking out the back window, right? Well, when I was doing that, I knew damn well, because I was very well versed in heliocentric rhetoric, that I could not see Earth curve. So one of the things while I was looking out the window that would go through my mind is, I wish I could get higher to see Earth curve. What do I mean? I mean, I'm saying in my own mind, I know I'm not seeing any curve. I can't. Therefore, ergo, I wish I could by getting higher, because I can't. This guy, same plane, same window. Look at that beautiful Earth curve I'm seeing. What? No, you just don't understand your own bloody rhetoric.
Yeah, he never looked for it. This Charlie Kirk, I know of the guy. He never looked for this Earth curve. He just pre-assumed that it was there. Maybe he didn't. Maybe subconsciously, a lot of people don't look out the window of the plane because they might see something that doesn't fit with what they believe. I did. I looked out and I told you the story back in the year 2000 when I was going to Australia, how I was kind of depressed in the plane thinking, Australia just must be a really flat country. That's what I said to myself. It must be just really flat because there's no Earth curve. You know what I mean? In any direction. And it's like not realizing, no, maybe it's all just flat.
Yeah, that's the same as me. I was saying to myself when I was like, I wish I could go higher to see Earth curve. I'm saying I can't see Earth curve. Well, another way of looking at it is saying, me looking out going, look how flat it all is. Because that's precisely what I was presented with. I'll just do a quick call to action before you go, John. Obviously, I don't want to show any favouritism, but I don't want to cut you off either. Please let this guy know. So his name's Charlie Kirk. And there's a link going by in the chat right now. So you can actually leave him a kind message. It just says, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And just let him know that we have actually covered his video and critiqued some of his criticisms or his behaviour more than anything else, because he gives this guy a complete hand wave and literally points him off the podium at the end. Just get this guy out of here. Hand wave's been done. Okay, so yeah, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The reason we do this is, as much as I'm sure this guy's worked up his reputation far more than I, maybe he hasn't. I don't know.
My point was going to be, if Earth was curving, Earth curve mass would be invalid.
Yeah, if Earth was curving, you'd have no horizontal for the Earth curve maths to function with. What is that in Earth curve maths? Surface level. Yes. But the reason, just one more thing, I'm nearly done with my call to action. The reason we send you to people like Charlie Kirk and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me is so that A, he can share in the algorithmic love, as I've got some to actually offer with a very moderate audience to send his way, with maybe 80 people watching right now. Please share the show if you haven't already. But if he were to respond, no, this was not a hand wave. Yes, I did see Earth curve. That comes from maths derived from flat plane measurements from the window of a plane. Hopefully, he would put a link to this video and offer us some love where YouTube offer us zero. They don't share this type of content on YouTube since they were told not to by Congress. So, please let him know. Go ahead, whoever it was that wanted to go, that I stopped.
Yeah, considering Charlie Kirk brought up airplanes, and he is an influential character out there on campuses and different things like that. I think he works for Turning Point or USA or something like that, one of these kind of internet media outlets. My challenge to him is, would you be able to, Charlie, come up with the pitch data from any flight international or flight from one side or one end of the USA to the other? Because that will prove or disprove, considering you're bringing up airplanes, that will prove or disprove if the airplane is flying around the globe or over a horizontal plane. So would you be able to do that? Because I can't seem to get this pitch data, and no commercial pilot will give it to me. Some of them are even telling me they're not allowed. So maybe Charlie Kirk can get this pitch data, because that will prove or disprove. And it can't be fake.
We already know how it
Nobody
works.
can give you fake data, because every pilot in the world will know that's not correct.
We already know how it works, though.
Yes, but if you have the official data and you have someone with a big voice like this Charlie Kirk has, this guy Charlie Kirk has got a big voice. You know, he's like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens. He's one of that ilk. He's got a big voice. So if he can get the data, that will then prove or disprove whether the Earth is a globe or not. It's that simple. He's a big voice. He should be able to get the data. Someone is definitely going to give it to Charlie Kirk. And if they don't, then Charlie Kirk is going to do a lot of head scratching. Because he's bringing up airplanes. You know, okay, Charlie, if you want to bring up airplanes, there's your challenge.
Yeah, they've got measurements that you can acquire, then acquire them and shut us up with them if you're going to attempt to do such a thing, rather than hand-waving somebody by saying you've seen Earth curve from an aeroplane, which you have not. It goes squarely against your heliocentric priest rhetoric, specifically Neil deGrasse Tyson and the advanced Earth curve mathematics, and the assertion that you can see the horizon bending at altitude. You can't. So that wasn't a well-researched, well-rounded answer to a question of whether or not you'd looked into it. Now, your answer was, yeah, for 30 seconds. Okay. Well, based on past experience with this guy challenging other people who've put 30 seconds research into a subject that he spent a long time digging out the statistics and data for, so he can make his point with evidence, does he believe that 30 seconds worth of research was a good standard? Because I'm going to go with no. But he seems very pleased about himself. Look, I dealt with this flat earther really well. Maybe he wasn't a flat earther. Maybe he just seen a standard from you and thought, I'll appeal to this man I respect to see what standard he has attained within a subject that I've found recently and see interest in. What have you done to research this subject that could be fundamental to the world that we live in? 30 seconds is the answer. All right, you did 30 seconds answer and 30 seconds research and decided you already knew based on what you saw out of an aeroplane. I see. Fascinating stuff. Very poor standards. Very much not in line with the typical standards that you seem to exhibit. Also in line with the standards that you berate others with. That's why I've put this video on. I think I covered that in the first time I had my little preamble though. Post-amble, just as good, hopefully. Anybody else got any comments on this? I'm dragging it out because it's such a short clip.
Yeah, I have. The only 30 seconds he gave to the subject was the 30 seconds of him dealing with this guy. That's it. Whatever amount of time he gave to deal with this guy, that's the amount of time he gave to the topic. He's never, ever given it even more than that. That's it. That 30 seconds there is it. That's the max. So when he says, I gave it 30 seconds, he's literally telling the truth while trying to lie. Because that's all he's given it.
Yeah, but that's not even being responsible. Actually, that's being a fool if you're not hearing two sides of a matter before you come to a conclusion.
All he was being asked is, have you looked into it? Now, if you on stage can't just admit when you haven't. No, I haven't. Like, have you looked into the dome? I don't claim a dome. I don't know what the sky is. It's that level of honesty that you'd expect from somebody who's pinning people to the wall when they come up with some liberal nonsense that he wants to disagree with. He's not gone, I'm just going to call you an idiot and hand wave you off stage. You know, I can do maths. Ergo, you're an idiot. You can't do maths. When someone's offered him zero statistics, he comes back with the statistics typically to challenge their view that they haven't done any research with. Anyway, I'm just repeating myself now. Cool. Anything else? Any more for any more? Is that it?
Yeah, but I think it's interesting how easily on big media, because technically Charlie Kirk he's basically mainstream media almost, I would put him at. Because mainstream media is actually kind of dying, right? Because it's such nonsense. There's such lies and everything involved in it. Nobody has anything to do with it. No one wants to know about it. So the numbers for the mainstream media outlets, for people, looking to get information off them, the numbers are going down rapidly, and they're actually having to lay off mainstream media are having to lay off lots and lots and lots of people, and even BuzzFeed News, I think, completely shut down. And there's a load of them. There's a load of layoffs happening because there isn't any proper mainstream media. Now he is going to step into the shoes. him and some others, let's say Candace Owens, right? Let's hope she does the right thing, right? Is going to step into the shoes of these big mainstream outlets that people are moving away from, right? But he's shown what he's willing to do when something comes up that he's uncomfortable about, right? Because he may not have been uncomfortable about other issues, that have been around in the past recent years. I won't go into what they are, several different things, topics. But this suddenly makes him uncomfortable. And how fast he's willing to dismiss it. How fast he's willing to come up with to lean back on, I can do maths, so that means I'm not stupid. That means I'm not a flat earther, because a flat earther is not stupid, and stupid people can't do maths. It's this circle of reasoning. It's like, so how fast he's willing to do that? How fast the future of mainstream, what is the possible future of mainstream media? How fast this person is willing to hand wave away a topic, this topic specifically. It would
have been nice if the guy. Sorry, it would have been nice if the guy would have said, "Can you break down those mathematics for me?"
Yeah, well, I mean, if the guy's going to present the subject matter, I've said this all through the last 3 or 4 months on this show, just tell him how it's measured. Go straight to the measurements. If you're going to go to, I believe Earth is flat, this guy didn't do that. He asked the guy how much he'd looked into it. But if you are going to present it in a way, move forward on the front foot and assert it with facts and measurements. Because then you can annihilate your opponent if they bring up a claim with your first assertion by taking them to their measurements of a flat Earth when they make their claims. So when this guy says, well, the measurements, and then refers to planes, well, Brian did a very good job, although he phrased it in a question which was enticing him to interact with us. But you just take them to the measurements, take them to how flights actually function with respect to a plane, take them to a few citations from NASA detailing how Earth's dealt with flat, non-rotating, stationary when you fly on it, because that's what it is dealt with. So, annihilate their claim with some flat Earth measurements, because that's how Earth's dealt with by everyone, including NASA, including all aeronautics. Planes is what he referred to. Take him to something with planes that shows how it's flat.
Yeah, the lift effect. It's what I mean. But he's not going to listen to that. He won't listen to me or someone like me trying to detail the lift effect to him. But he'll have no choice but to accept the data. Do you know what I mean? Because he does maths. So he'll have no choice but to go, the data's not fitting what it's supposed to fit for my belief. I'm in trouble there. Do you know what I mean? He'll have no choice. What could happen is if by on the off chance he happens to hear this and he happens to go about trying to get that data, he could get that data and then not show it. Simply because he can't handle what the data is showing him. Do you know that kind of way? I wouldn't put it past, like anyone with that reaction that is that fast and that dismissive, I wouldn't put it past that person to do that and to make it okay with themselves simply because they can't take the reality of reality. I also reckon, I also would predict, because that Candace Owens is likely to start talking about flat Earth when she comes out on her own show, or a show she's in has more influence over the running of, because she brought up the topic some months ago, back in 2022
hold on.
or 2023.
Hold on, sorry to stop you. Let's not segue onto Candace Owens, because we have covered her. I want to stick to this Charlie Kirk guy, because you started speculating. I'll tail off where you did with Candace.
No, she actually brought it up.
I know, but I just want to stick with this guy, which is to say that his reaction to it, in terms of how he's like so dismissive, and you just described it, right? Going from there, I would speculate that is because someone like him has gone through his adult life getting a handle on how the world politically, socially, maybe economically functions, works. And he thinks he's got a good handle on it. And he can see how the deceivers of this world pump narratives, and how the masses are influenced by said narratives, and how they'll prop up. And he'll challenge people with data and facts based on a good understanding of how the world functions. If you're faced with something like Flat Earth, to even entertain it or start researching it, you've got to accept at some level the premise that there might be a deception beyond that which you currently feel you've got a very good handle on. Yeah, I know it's all working. I've figured it all out. I can see through the deception. I can see where the political agendas lie. I know how the world works. Really? What if we told you that what you believe the world is fundamentally is not what you know it to be? Would that turn your world upside down? Yeah, it would, because suddenly what you think you know in terms of how the world deceives and how the world operates is a drop in the ocean, so insignificant to the wider spectrum of deception that suddenly it makes your whole sense of existence seem that much less important. Yeah? Now, in a world of nihilism where you're in an ever-expanding universe of heliocentrism on a ball, and that ball's only got so much going on, and you've got a handle on it, finding out that the very premise of, well, there's not much to the world, there's not much consequences, it's an ever-expanding infinite nothingness, and in terms of just what we've got going on in our little anthill, I know how all the ants behave. Until you realise that potentially the ants have deceived you into believing that you're on an anthill, when in reality you're on a massive extended plane. So that's why I think he would brace against it, just to speculate and keep the conversation going, just till we round out the live show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he probably feels he has got it all covered. But here comes a topic that completely takes all these other deceptions, all these other topics and issues that he would have pre-assumed to be so important. It takes all them and turns them all on their head, because this is so much huger. I mean, the enormity in size that this topic is in comparison to any other topic. I think people just can't, they can't fathom it. I think they need to make it seem like this topic is kind of not really important or whatever, because it's the most important. It's the biggest. It's like, this means that your whole world was a lie. Not just this political deception or that banking issue or this medical thing or whatever, or social engineering. This is some social engineering nonsense to do with whatever nonsense, right? Woke nonsense. This issue takes all of them, and it's like Godzilla, and they're all mice. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're such nothing in comparison. This is the head of the snake. And that's it. People don't want to accept that the snake has a head, or they don't want to look at the head of the snake, because then they can't deny it being a snake.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. It's well described by Conspiracy Cats in that interview he did with Haunted House, which seems to not die in terms of its usefulness by example. And in the third person, he's describing his friend that might contemplate the idea of a flat earth and find out that it's real. Suddenly he's got to question everything. Suddenly there might be massive lies. Suddenly every foundation of everything that he understands and accepts to be true could be untrue. You'd have to start questioning everything. You'd lose sleep, worrying about it. That's what he said. All in the third person, of course. It's nothing to do with him and how he feels about this subject. But that is the reality. Suddenly, hold on, if they manage to keep that under wraps, and right up until this moment of contemplation and realisation, I was supporting keeping it under wraps, and now everybody else who doesn't know what I've just found out and realised is going to brace against me, then the level of control in the world is simply beyond my comprehension. How has it got to this stage? Now, for us, we sit back in our chairs in a very relaxed manner and very calmly say, yeah, you can just track the history of it. And in terms of its utilisation, everything's being functionally used as flat forever. It's never changed. just the religious belief that you're standing on something other than the flat plane we use. That's just a belief, though, that you hold. Did you not realise until now? And now it's shocking and you think everybody could be lying to you? Yeah, it's perfectly natural. Damn my sight, I couldn't give a toss. Don't deal with it by yourself, I don't care.
Yeah, because Conspiracy Cats was kind of saying, it's kind of, without saying it this way, but he was like, asking for a friend, just asking for a friend, do you think of blah, blah? That's basically what, even though he wasn't asking a question, he was referring to, let's say, if he had a friend, you know what I mean, when that friend is actually him. If I accepted this, it would mean all this other stuff is not what I think it is.
Exactly.
Just for the record, I sleep like a baby.
Me too. I've heard it from many a flat earther, the realization. Because it can suddenly turn you back on liars, right? You don't have to keep asking them questions anymore. We covered this at the start of the live show. Nice that we've wrapped around in a full circle. But once you realise that they're lying to you about the stage show that they called the moon landing, what do? Do you go back and ask them, why does this look fake? Why is this glass of water sat on the desk when you're supposed to be in 0G? Why did the keys fall out of this man's pocket when he's supposed to be floating around? If you start asking them those sorts of questions because you've realised they're lying, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to congratulate you and give you a cash prize and then change the world by opening up to the world and the media and saying, actually, Johnny Briggs here caught us out, he saw us, he got... No, they're not. They're just going to lie to you again. That's all they'll do.
Would you believe I'm so desensitized to NASA footage that my friend showed me a piece of NASA footage recently, a short, where there was these couple of astronauts standing around like they're on the ISS, they're supposed to be on the ISS, and you know the way they're all puffed up because they're supposed to be being lifted up due to a lack of gravity, you know, that they're almost weightless. Now, this kind of thing, where they have them on harnesses or whatever. And one of them dropped by accident, this kind of blow-up globe thing in their hands, or beach ball, and the thing went down. And I was like, what am I looking at? You know, I didn't even, it's just, the whole video, my friend had to point out what the problem was with it. Because I am so I'm so far gone past NASA and their nonsense that I don't even question when I see them. I just go, oh yeah, that's more NASA. I don't even know. I don't even look for the lie, is what I mean. I just know there is a lie in there. I don't need to look for it.
Right, I've had the same thing. People have sent me... Exactly, people have sent me clips and they've gone, check it out, isn't that awful? And you're like, what? And then they'll point out the flaw. Look, the guy fades as he disappears, and it's obviously an edit. He's not going through the door, he's fading out. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a stage show. Of course it's fading out. Of course it's edited. Of course the ceiling's not missing and then edited in afterwards with the high wires. It's a stage show. Anyway, I'm going to round out and say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
Nah, they don't come up with anything.
I missed the start of that because of ending the live stream. What did you say, Brian?
I'm just saying, there's pilots out there who are fundies. So you have people out there who are pilots who are claiming they're flying around the globe, but when you press them for information and evidence of this, they come up with nothing. I've had a pilot only recently who now claims he's retired. Right, he was fully functioning a year ago. Now he's been retired for a couple of years. But whatever he wants to say, the point is that he is a commercial pilot, or at least was. And when I asked him to come up with the pitch data, he came up with every excuse he could not to get it. Right? Every excuse possible not to get it. And over the course of time, every time I see him commenting on that, and I ask him for the pitch data, right? For just because he's not getting it. And he recently told a lie and said, I wouldn't get you that pitch data that you're looking for because you won't be able to read it. And I told him, I told you a year ago that I have two pilots. One of them is a captain waiting to read that data for me when you get it. So that's a lie, and you know that. And then he had to tell another lie. It's like, this guy's a commercial pilot, but he's lying one lie after the other to try and get around coming up with the data that will prove or disprove what he is trying to claim to be real. And I've had several other pilots, one of them was Wolfie, more or less lose their minds. Wolfie had to start coming to my channel on a second account. He couldn't come in there anymore on his main account because he was making himself look bad. And there was another pilot I had to actually say to this guy, I think this guy is in, was he South Africa or somewhere? This pilot, I had to tell him, you need to take a break, because I said, this is not good for someone who's supposed to be flying a plane with hundreds of people on it. And you're so preoccupied. This guy was becoming like a stalker, my stalker. I said, why are you more or less stalking me when you're supposed to be focused on flying hundreds of people from point A to point B. You need to get off of my channel and stop watching my videos. And he actually agreed with me in the end. Because he couldn't prove what he's claiming. He can't do it. None of them. 5 commercial pilots and 1 or 2 private pilots I've dealt with. None of them can prove any of their globe claims. None of them. None of them can come up with anything.
And it is
Every
painful.
one of them, especially.
It is painful. Yeah. I know it's painful because they know the reality of the data they're dealing with. Yeah, lives are dependent on it, and flying over a flat plane is a reality that they know about. So the fact that they brace against it must be painful. They've got all the money in the world. They don't need any more excitement. You know, what is it exactly that we, considered stupid, need to offer them as pilots? What could we possibly offer? Yeah, I'm sure if you were going to list exciting jobs in the world, flying an aeroplane would be right up there. Even if it's, you know, a fairly mundane passenger airline for the sake of argument. I'm sure I read an article once that had the pilot describe flying those sorts of flights as hours of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. Right? You go, okay, that's an exciting job. Well paid, and I'm sure you've got a good car, beautiful wife. Yeah? Why come here? Because of your pain. You need it relieving. You need us to go away and the Earth to remain being flat without any reminders. And we just remind you every day that the Earth's flat. They don't want it to be.
Back in 2017,
Brian, you won't get any pitch data because you don't actually need it, because the plane's actually flying around the globe with the atmosphere. So although it is going around the globe, it's actually horizontal and level at all the times. You just don't know that.
Excellent, one deck. That's after clearing it all up. I'll delete my channel now. Now that you've given me this epic globe evidence, it's all explained to me. But that is basically what they've tried to give me. They've tried to tell me that flying in a horizontal line consistently only changes in altitude when they need to around the globe. It's like, no. You know what I mean? It can't be done. You know what I mean? But that's what they've tried to do. Yeah, just back in 2017, that female Dutch pilot that was flying for, I think it was KLM or someone, she mentioned to her co-pilot, who she had been a co-pilot with for 10 years and friends with for 10 years, who she thought was a confidant and someone she could trust and a friend and everything. She just mentioned that the Earth is flat to him and pointed out that, look, everything we do, where are we accounting for this curvature? We're not. We have to fly over a flat plane, blah, blah, blah. She landed the plane and she was met by a psychiatrist. Your man had ratted her out mid-flight when she had got up to leave to go to the toilet or whatever, to leave the cockpit. He ratted her out and got her. Now, since then, she's been grounded. If she even still works at the airport, she's been grounded. She
I
has
remember
a
that story.
license taken from her. Yeah. So that's what they do to you, right? Even your own claimed friends, that's what, like, who are pilots. That other guy must have been such a fundamental loser that he ratted out his friend for 10 years. Someone who was his friend and co-pilot for 10 years. You're supposed to be able to trust your co-pilot. I mean, for Jesus' sake, you're flying a plane together with hundreds of people on it. You're supposed to have trust. But in a moment, when this topic came up, this guy ratted her out. You know,
so that's the fear they put on you. If you open your mouth, you get grounded.
And that's why no pilots come out these days, because that's actually like they only need to hear that one story internally within this pilot circles, and there's no pilot going to be coming out. I'm sure at this stage they're kind of told you can't address that topic anyway. But you know, they probably have to sign legal waivers or whatever. But even if they didn't do that, which I'm sure they do, that one incident alone would be enough for pilots to go, look, it's not worth bringing up the topic or to talk about it because I'm going to lose my whole career. And that's what they do. You know, so that's what one pilot did to another in the drop of a hat during, I think it was only like a 3-hour flight. So it wasn't even a huge flight.
Right, got my Charlie Kirk thumbnail done. I'm in front of a nice big star-spangled banner with a model of a spaceship destined for the moon behind him. Excellent work, Nathan.
Yeah, but that's how they're all going to do it now. They're going to hand wave you away, and that's going to be their that's going to be what they stand by. So everybody else is going to look like, look, this topic is not even worth looking into.
Well, it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting as because it's going from a we're going to kind of. I have to kind of say we'll probably be on the sidelines watching because we've kind of distanced ourselves a little bit from mainstream flat Earth because we're not believers, we're knowers. So that has so we're kind of distanced from that. But mainstream flat Earth is kind of now on X and Twitter more so than YouTube, right? If you want to see it that way. And we're going to probably see from the sidelines the cracks that are going to be happening when the pressure is on, because the pressure is building more and more and more. Day after day after day, there's greater and greater numbers of flat earthers, and a lot of them are young people. And
especially
more
on
and
TikTok.
more and more it's building. And they can try and say to Nathan, oh, your channel is not growing. Or your channel is this, your channel is that. But they should be really paying attention to not Nathan, but all these thousands and millions of flat earthers that are turning up on X and TikTok. That's what they need to be paying attention to. Even if a lot of them are there by the feast of nonsense, the point is that they're there. And how are they going to deal with that? How are their parents going to deal with that? You know what I mean? I mean, I think maybe they've mistakenly given too much attention to us. I think instead of
no, Brian, they're going to deal with it by hand waving it away like this guy did.
You won't be able to do it if it's your son and daughter. Do you know what I mean? You won't be able to do it if it's your nephew or niece. You won't be able to do it. There's going to be too much pressure. The pressure is building. It's a pressure cooker, and it's building and building and building. I can nearly feel it.
I can't see, Brian, though, how this will ever, the flat Earth will be just accepted, and no one's going to say, yeah, we've discovered it's flat, like NASA or the governments. I can only see this happening like with a proper, like, great reset of some kind, for the truth to come out. I don't know how it would come out otherwise, or how.
Well, in present conditions, you kind of go, yeah, look, it's kind of, how is that going to work? But if you give it 10 more years, we're almost 10 years in. Well, for some people, it is 10 years, like Betty. But some of us are almost 10 years in. We're 9 years in, 8 years in, some of them. And sorry, Nathan? Can't hear you, Nathan.
I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying something. Give it 10 more years. Look at the pressure that's on them now. Give it 10 more years. I mean, and these young people have grown up and they're now not 15, 16, they're now 26 or 30. Do you know what I mean? They're not young, they're after getting older. You know what I mean? It's like bit by bit by bit. It's like we're eating them alive. That's the best way to describe it. While they're trying to deny that we exist. It's they're trying to deny that you have a flesh-eating bug when you do. Bit by bit by bit, it will eventually kill you. And I think it's kind of right now it's hard for us to see it, but over time, it'll just become very obvious that we're just after, as Nathan used the analogy before of two people sitting at the bus stop, and one person says, do you know what's flat? And the other person goes, yeah, everyone knows that. And they just talk about something different. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I reckon that time is coming, where it's just kind of the old guard and the boomers and all these people who would have got in our way, that all these people are just going to become relics. That's what I reckon.
We don't exactly have a massive success rate with getting people to put links to our videos as much as I've been doing it for probably a year now.
No, they're not going to. Take it as a compliment when they won't, because it means they can't accept doing that.
What, making a response? You leave very little wiggle room for them to respond with a rebuttal. Unlike the people that you described earlier, you're like, there's a great bunch of people on TikTok or X or wherever. Well, if they're in the feast of nonsense, you like, at least they're there. I don't know.
Yeah, they're in the wrong place. I don't think they're safe in the feast of nonsense.
Yeah, but I mean, these people will find their way towards this. Us, they will eventually, or enough of them will. You know, there's always going to be believers. What can you do? There's always going to be believers. You can't do anything about that.
Right, as long as you can hold them in a belief.
And it's that it's just us.
Exactly. If you can hold them in the belief, Brian, then you can undermine their belief and relinquish them of it and put them back on the track you want them on. That's why the feast of nonsense is bad.
Yeah, but only until it's shown that in reality that it's flat. Like at that point, everyone will just accept it. That's what I'm talking about in the future, where a future time where everyone just accepts the earth to be what it is. The war is over, kind of thing. Right now, these people a lot of them are only believers, but at that point, they won't be just believers.
Yeah, you say they'll eventually find their way here to the good information, but what makes you think that? Do you not think that they've got it a good YouTube have got a good handle on the shoving us to the bottom of the lists?
No. See, it's going to be a gradual thing where some of them will find their way. Some of them will find their way, and it's even being shown now. Look at people like that guy Caleb. Now, I haven't heard much from him for a while. Someone else is talking.
I don't think so.
Sorry, it must be someone feeding back then, me feeding back on someone's. But look at that guy Caleb. He's a young kind of a guy, and he was kind of promoting the ether. Now he went, no, this is nonsense. And now he's more likely to promote the type of arguments that we put out. He may not be on the show, but he's taken in those type of arguments. And they're the type of arguments he's probably, from what last I heard of him, more interested in. So there is someone who's gradually moving away from belief. That person is moving away from belief to a knowing, to being able to argue the point and prove your point and disprove the opposition. Do you know what I mean? And there's other young people like him who will be doing the same thing. They won't all, like straight away, I'm going to use the term, gravitate towards us, pardon the pun. They won't all gravitate directly towards us, but enough of them will. And over time, the believers will start. I reckon that the believers over time, I mean, let's be honest, there's one thing that everyone agrees upon, and that is that it's flat and stationary. Right. Well, with the exception of Dell and them. But most people agree it's flat and stationary. So believers believe that, and knowers know that. But it's an agreed upon point. So no matter what other nonsense they come up with, whether it be ether or anything else, it won't be a globe in a heliocentric paradigm. Over time, that will disappear. I reckon that you will have people probably promoting ether and stuff in the future. But it won't be on a globe. So the fight will be more with ether as opposed to with a globe.
What I've noticed is we have more of an ability to affect the feast of nonsense than we do mainstream rhetoric. And that's where our battle truly lies, I guess, is the feast of nonsense.
Yeah, the stuff that they will tolerate going out and being commented on by our opponents is what I used to consider to just be controlled opposition narrative. Now, that might have just come naturally by our opposition throughout the years, not us specifically, but Flat Earth's opposition, if you will, developing the rhetoric for them to want to oppose. In other words, they've built up these straw men, and the straw men are what we now consider to be the feast of nonsense, because that was what got promoted in the algorithms. So, you know, they have had a certain amount of control for that reason over what people are going to be coming to the subject with, which is, you know, incredibly useful.
Right, but remember, we've got the Feast of Nonsense to stop calling Cavendish an experiment. That's how much we've affected it. Or, well, QE has.
Okay. I mean, that's good.
So the ship, yes, yeah, it's a slow transition, but the effects of knowledge, you know, it's happening, and it's happening every day. We're just, the metric we're using to measure it, I don't think is a good one at the moment.
Yeah, how many people, Nathan? I'm going to jump on that, John. How many people, Nathan, now, right? You, as opposed to 5-6 years ago, how many people now, flat earthers now, are saying that's not an experiment? What's a dependent variable? Do you know what I mean? That's not science. That's pseudoscience. But you go back 5 or 6 years ago, there was a lot more flat earthers calling things like astronomy science than there is now. So
That's correct.
we might see, we might think like there isn't really progress happening, but that is serious progress in just 5 years. The amount of people in the world that are even being sidelined or kind of somewhat influenced by that, as well, by that, because that is happening. There's like people who are making these statements that pointing out something isn't science. You know, flat earthers who are doing that. That's rubbing off on other people.
Yeah, but Brian, what about when we go on like the politics server and you hear some of the things that are brought up there? And these people are on Discord, well, some of them all day long. And listen to the arguments they bring forth. I mean, it gets a little depressing.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though. We cleaned house here. Now we go there and clean house. And before you know it, other people will pick up the broom.
You need more than a broom. You need one of them power washers that the fire department uses.
Basically, we need to get flat Earth in order before we can take on heliocentrism.
No, I'd say we
still
have
got to come to
heliocentrism cornered. Go on.
I'll just say it's still got to come to a point at some stage if it's going to come out as the truth, which it is, that NASA and whatever they've been doing and videos they've been showing was a total lie, and the education system was a total lie. And this is so that's going to have to happen if it goes full force. The truth comes out.
Yeah, but you can't hold the education system as a total lie. A lot of things you're learning there are true. 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah, but I mean, one day is just talking about the education concerning science, general education concerning what science is and science isn't. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing, especially at higher levels, where they'll
they teach you level a globe, don't they? You know that's it's in the classroom. So at some point, if flat Earth is growing and growing and the truth is coming out, at some point that has to be highlighted as it was all a lie or a mistake. It's got to be. Someone's going to have to make an announcement, and who makes that announcement?
I don't know why you've got the notion that it must go in that way. One deck, maybe tell us.
Well, I'm just saying if the truth is to unfold and everybody is, you know, with like Brian's been talking about, that everybody is getting to grips with, well, we don't actually live on a globe, and more people realizing this over time, there's going to come a point where most of the population will say, if that happens, will realize that they live on a globe, a flat Earth, sorry, and we don't live on a globe. So are we still going to be seeing pictures from NASA at that stage saying, well, no, you know, we know everybody realizes it's a flat Earth, but we're still being told that, you know, this is a picture from the ISS, and there's the globe Earth below us. It's got to just, if it's going to be destroyed, then it's going to have to be destroyed. And the only way I can see that happening is some sort of total reset. I don't know how that's going to work.
We got it wrong. That's what they'll say one day. The schools will say we got it wrong. That's how they'll reposition it. They won't want to say it was a destroyed. They just say we got it wrong.
John had a point. The cleaning house ladder is going to be a good task than coming to a knowledge that it's flat and dealing with the effect.
Why do you think they got to get rid of the ISS?
They just remake it as needs be, so it just keeps getting reproduced. So it's not just the ISS, is it? It's Skylab, the ISS. What was the Mir? There's been a whole bunch of them, and they're just accounting for that light in the sky. As we get more and more detailed looks at it, they've got to match up what we see. So they continually revise what it's supposed to be. It's just a light that doesn't fit with what they say orbital motion should be. So they come up with a new story for it.
And let them track.
Well, earlier on, I pointed out that mainstream media are under serious pressure. That so many people are not watching them and listening to them. That's a big step forward, I think. Because mainstream media were the main pushers of this fraud. Because they couldn't stop and they can't stop. And the same is happening with Hollywood. They've tried pushing narratives so much that people are losing interest in them. I would say these space movies that Hollywood have come out with in the past few years, the ones that involved an astronaut and NASA type stuff, I would say they did pretty bad in the box office. Because I would say people just aren't really interested. You know what I mean? I would say people aren't really as interested in it as they. I reckon sometimes Hollywood are coming out with material that they know is going to flop, but it's purely being put out there to try and keep a narrative alive. That kind of way. I think that behind the scenes, people in general are kind of moving away from what the mainstream want to show them and tell them, because it's been proven to be so false over and over again. It's only a matter of time before people get to the point of accepting, hang on, maybe the earth is not what we're told. Maybe that is also not right. Everyone will come to that question eventually. The more they move away from mainstream media. As I said, there's massive layoffs, there's companies closing down, there's all kinds of protests happening because people's pensions are being messed with because they don't have a career anymore with some media company. There's all kinds of problems going on because no one's watching them. Nobody cares.
Don't you think they have all of this in play? They know exactly how it's going to unfold?
No, they don't always know exactly how it's going to unfold. I think that they have a kind of a generalized plan, and it may go the way they want it, and it may not. I think a lot of these people
They have a back.
who are, well, they may have, but maybe they're not as smart. See, maybe a lot of them, maybe they're not as smart as you give them credit for. They're just willing to do stuff and make decisions that most other people are not. If you're of a psychopathic type mindset, then you might be willing to make a decision that would affect millions of people in a negative way, but you don't even give it a second thought because you don't care. But that doesn't make you smart. That just means that you're willing to do bad things.
Let me rephrase.
You don't think they have a contingency plan?
They know how to handle it.
Go on, whoever that was from Discord.
Discord
Hold on one sec. Was someone trying to get a word in from Discord? Clearly not.
Well, I'll say it. They have it. They know what they're doing. They have the plan ready to roll.
I don't know, Neil. I think that their plans don't always go in the direction they want them to go. I don't think it always works. They give the impression that it all worked out perfect when maybe it didn't work out as they intended. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's this. Maybe their plan worked 70%, but 30% went sideways, and they don't know what's going to happen with that 30%.
Well, I think the problem is going to be the whole NASA thing, because people will be very upset because the amount of money that the government has put into that's coming directly from taxpayers, if I understand correctly. So there's going to be a lot of people really upset.
No, by that stage, the boomers are the people who should be upset because they're the people who was really fed the lie, and it's mostly their tax money that ended up going to NASA more than the tax money of anyone else. Even though I know it's every American citizen, but NASA's heyday was the boomer heyday. So it's those people. It's the people who will have been lied to the most. They're the people who will be 90 and in nursing homes. What are they going to do at that point?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The woke generation, they're going to be really upset.
It's already started.
Be like, you could have been taking care of the homeless.
I think you're right, Brian. I think it's already started. So it's almost insulting to the people who are on their deathbeds or getting into their latter years, right? When the kids are questioning it in the schools. So to them, it's just an affront because they know what's what. You know, it's adding insult to injury, isn't it? But you can change that narrative within a couple of generations, and we're already one generation into, if you want to consider it that way, the flat Earth generation. So, if in a very positive thinking that that's the way it's going, we can only look at it in that way if you know what kids are doing in the schools. They are challenging it.
Yeah, shall look at the amount of the Chocolate's partner's daughter. Chocolate never spoke with this kid about the topic. He made a point of not doing it, and yet she was like saying to the teacher, "No, I'm not filling in those answers. They're wrong. It's flat."
And what about the kids I spoke to? That was 2 years ago when I was doing that job, and I just asked them. These were high school kids. Have you heard anything about flat Earth? They were like, yeah, we know. Earth is flat. So that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, one of my own friends, his 14-year-old son, he never listened to that, and I ever said, I just didn't bother telling him much. He just knew it was a flat earther. He just saw me as a quirky kind of a fella with quirky ideas, and then suddenly he kind of made little quips at me as if it was kind of funny to him that I was supposedly believing in this. Then suddenly he's sending my other friend videos about NASA and flat Earth stuff because his son, his 14-year-old son, is a flat earther. Do you know what I mean? It's like he wasn't expecting that. It was okay for me to be a flat earther. He could ignore it, but he can't ignore it when his son is a flat earther. And his son is super smart. His son is like an engineering genius. And he can't deny it. Like if his son is pointing out things to him, he's going to go, I suppose I have to address it now. I could ignore Brian, but I can't ignore my son. You know, so that's what's going on. And if his 14-year-old son is saying that, how many other 14-year-olds just in my own town are of the same ilk? You know, bit by bit, like you have young people laughing at globe stuff and NASA stuff. Young people of his age, all across the world, laughing at it. See, you can't disprove it. How are you going to disprove that the Earth is flat? How are you going to disprove that? Like, I mean, besides Bev saying does elevation changes?
No, you can't disprove reality.
How are you going to disprove we have a horizontal baseline through the Earth? You can't. No matter what they do, they can't stop it. They can't debunk it.
It It just looks, Brian, it just looks horizontal, mate. That's because the globe's so huge.
No,
Biggie
no,
is
they can't
flatty.
disprove reality. Brian's right.
So I do think it's going to be the boomers in the nursing homes who are going to be, like, it's them who should really be the most angry because they were the ones who were really, really lied to. And by the time it comes out that they should be angry about it, they'll be too old to care. Most of them will probably have passed away. You know what I mean? It won't be worth the effort at that point.
How old are you now, Brian?
40, am I 46? I think 46.
You sound like me, Brian. I got to figure out my age by looking at what Super Bowl was just passed.
Yeah, you start losing track of it after a while, don't you, when you get older?
What was the last Super Bowl? 58, right? I'm 58.
I've been 37 for some time now.
Nathan is 27 with years.
Dog years, maybe.
Nathan is a 27-year-old female black man.
Right. But concerning yourself with when others will realise it or how others will feel when they have their understanding challenged by the youth of that day when they're on their deathbed and things like that. It's like, nah, you got to kind of, you can't concern yourself with that, right? Do what you do. It's those two camps. There's those who want to convert people, the flat earth evangelists, who literally want to ruin others' days, depending on how you look at it, by correcting them when they've got an expression of their heliocentric belief that they've been raised with. I mean, that is the only way that things will change, right? If enough people realise. And there's others that just go, okay, so it's flat then. All right. Wow. Meanwhile, got this lunch to make, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's two different distinct categories of people. And you were saying that some of them, you're never going to hear about them, even if they are resigned to the fact that it's flat, measured or otherwise, belief or otherwise, if they're just getting on with their day. So Adam was using the example with a certain group of Christians who are on the fringes of Christianity for their outlandish beliefs, and they understand through Bible literalism that Earth is flat. Therefore, that is the accepted standard because that's what the Bible says. Now, they may not align with other Christians for other reasons that are controversial or otherwise, but the fact is that they're not banging that drum. It just is what it is. Now, when it gets to a certain amount of the populace that are like that, then you can start changing the education structure and you don't have to make any apologies. Nobody's asking for them anymore. It's just the accepted standard. And it will always return to the accepted standard of flat, by the way. It doesn't actually, in some ways, what we do is kind of meaningless. And I know there's going to be a process at a societal level that brings you back to the realization that it's flat, and we may be involved in that process. It seems like we are. But that is the state of affairs. That is the natural state of what we do. Whether or not there's a religion from men who want to keep other men under control, I mean people by that, is irrelevant to the way the world will be dealt with. Has always been dealt with. Has always been mapped. Do you see what I'm getting at? It's inescapable, or in Matrix vernacular, it is inevitable. Would you not agree?
Yeah, it is inevitable. It's inevitable. There's no way around it. And they know it. They know it. How are you going to stop the world being what it is? You can't. People are going to view it for what it really is. Bit by bit by bit, more people, younger people especially, they're just accepting it for what it is.
Yeah,
I suppose it comes to like, sorry, Brian. Like, I suppose it comes to then, I mean, we know the Earth is flat. Would we feel any better if it was announced and that it was a lie and it's flat? Because we already know it's flat. So would that make us feel any better knowing that now the truth has just been announced? Would it make an ounce of difference to you?
When you say us, I know you mean those of us, Neil, who really want the general populace to agree as he does. Generally.
Did you just say Neil?
No, I didn't say anything
I
about
have relinquished that.
I don't think I mentioned you. Neil! I don't think I mentioned you at all, Neil.
Listen, it doesn't matter if they announce it from the rooftops. Still, people will think you're living on a sphere. The indoctrination is
No,
deep.
no. You're right and wrong because they'll become a minority. So I've already speculated on this. The aspects of the religion of heliocentrism are wrapped up in the religion of Scientology. So when they've got their hermetically sealed vaults under the ground with armed guards currently protecting it with all of L. Ron Hubbard's work, what is his work? What does it represent? Well, if you take out the farcical bits that heliocentrists scoff at, that's the Xenu stuff and the Thetans stuff, what are you left with? You're just left with a heliocentric religion. That's all it is. And it's been packaged up, ready to put on the shelf. It's already on the shelf, in fact, in storage vaults. Yeah? So if need be, like with any psychopathic control structure, it will be recycled. You know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it fades into obscurity over the next 100 years and then gets reinitialized 300 years after that for whatever purposes of control that it might be useful for. You know, just recycle it. But in order to do so, they've got to package it up, and I feel that's the only, if I'm honest, the only, of all the things I've looked at in Scientology, this seems to be the only useful one that relates to us. How are you going to keep that paid for, bought and researched model that's been very effectively controlling the Western world for a very significant period? How do you pack it up and pop it on the shelf? Well, you need to tuck it up in an actual religion, and that is Scientology. And L. Ron Hubbard is of that gang, isn't he? He's of that group of people that created the modern heliocentric religion that we have, right? Through things like NASA and the space race and things like that. Well, he's part of that group. L. Ron Hubbard, that is.
He's the
I
leader.
understand what you're saying there. It's like you say, it's like a religion on a shelf, like it's the globe religion, heliocentric religion. But if you want to choose to believe in that, that's fine. It's all packaged up, and if you want to go with that, you stick with that. Or we've got the flat Earth proofs and evidence. If you want to go with that, go with that. Same with religions, isn't it? You could have been a Christian for so many years, and then all of a sudden you want to change religion. You're no longer in that religion. You're going to go to another religion. You're just changing your belief. Although flat Earth's not a belief, it's absolutely true and can be demonstrated to be measured and observed that way.
It'll be replaced. Well, I mean, it may not be worldview based. Whatever the replacement is, it's just going to serve the same ends of control. Yeah, keeping people less acquisitive than they perhaps should or would be without that method of control in place. Now, if it's not Earth-based, it'll be something else-based, keeping people under control for the same reasons. But when that new system takes over is when it'll be inconsequential. The useful nature of Earth being a globe for the purposes of control won't be in place anymore when it's replaced with something else. And some of the flat earthers' fears are, well, what if that's the numpties who come up with incoherent dielectric acceleration? Nah. You think they're going to form the worldview for the next 300 years? Nah. I don't think so. I don't think we've got much to worry about in that regard. There's probably already a system that's already been used on some other shelf somewhere else ready to be recycled. You know what I mean? Oh, what? Well, we'd know about it, really? They'd keep that in the history books, would they? No. So we have no idea. Whatever system of control comes will be there if there's one required. And at the moment, it just happens to be heliocentric.
I reckon that the future of heliocentrism will be purely as a philosophical thing. I reckon people in the future will entertain it philosophically. And there will be like clubs that will meet up, like globe out societies, right? That will meet up and all pretend they're on a globe. I reckon that's how it's going to go. Entertaining. Yeah, the global society. That's how I reckon it's going to go. Yeah, it's going to, because that's all it can be in the future. Once it's shown it's flat, in the future, all that heliocentrism can be is a philosophy that one might choose to take on with their friends. Or
yeah, but
part
how
of a
would they
group.
make Brian? How would they make that up? What would they say that they were lying about? See, they're lying that Earth is not a globe because why? Because they didn't have
It's
the
not
money
that.
to
They know it's
travel.
not. No, it's not that people are even considering it. They know it's not. They just getting together in clubs and going through and hangouts and societies and getting together and philosophizing about how if the Earth was a globe, what this would be doing and what that would be doing. It's kind of a lot of nerds and people who want to get into fantasy. A lot of fantasists and nerds would be interested in it, and I reckon it would turn into.
Neil, it was the aliens from the outer lands over the Antarctic ice wall that's forced them to do this.
Yeah,
I got
and they took back their antiquitech.
Go on, Adam.
Well, he ruined that flow. That could have been a really comedic bit, but there we go. Adam had to ruin it.
You can't get a word in edgeways with Adam. He just won't shut up today. But yeah, I think it's going to be.
Oh well,
okay,
that's just epic timing.
Yeah, I'll say what I'm going to say now.
You're not experiencing.
Man, you said I'm say what I'm going to say.
I was going to say to the audience, you're not experiencing technical difficulties. It's a social thing.
I'd say it now because I'll go now because otherwise it's going to get ridiculous.
What you just said?
Neil, can you interrupt next, please? Thanks.
I said, Adam, you go. I'll talk in a minute, but don't worry about it. I'll just go now. I reckon these global societies are going to turn into dens of iniquity eventually. There's going to be like orgy type stuff going on there. People, the wealthy will be turning up there, and the celebrities will be turning up there to get involved in these weird globe orgies. That's what eventually will happen. But it'll start off with some kind of philosophy. That's what I reckon is going to happen.
Okay, Mr. Flat Earth is now eyes wide shut plot.
Yeah, he took me off with a globe orgy. I just think of this sad group of people that are gathering round going, guys, we're definitely seeing too far. I think it's the leading edge of a ball that's making that ship disappear bottom up. They'll have all sorts of stuff and be attacking us, and we're hiding stuff from them. And eventually they'll go, you know what? These people have fooled us so much that even though we don't feel we're spinning, we're spinning. And that'll be the start of the Ball Earth Society.
Yeah, but they'd have to have something, like concrete to say that this is why they took away the ball. You understand what I'm saying?
Because they knew that because we were spinning but didn't feel it, it was proof that we were spinning.
No, you're all getting it wrong. No, they're not even considering that it actually is a rotating globe. They're just taking on the philosophy of it and enjoying it from a fantasy point of view. Like they understand it's flat and stationary, but they're taking on the philosophy of it.
I got you.
Yeah, it's all fantasy, which means that eventually it'll turn into some kind of orgy.
No, but just say it was the aliens from the outer lands who've got the technology and the higher consciousness, and they know everything about everything, and they absolutely have threatened to destroy where we live because they're able to do that. But so everybody in control must tell the humanity that we live on a globe, so that we don't even try and venture out there to discover this technology.
Yeah, it's got too much fantasy involved for it to just die and nobody pick it up. Space travel.
So in effect, the globe lies protecting the humanity.
Well, I reckon they're all going to dress up in astronaut suits and have a big orgy. So it's going to be a big fun thing. That's what's going to happen.
So what is it with you and the orgies, Brian?
No, but that's where these things go to. These fantasy things. They either become completely geeky, which I don't think it will stay geeky, or they become all weird, and eventually an orgy has to happen. You know what I mean? That's what will happen. That's the future of the global Earth society.
You might be right, because that's what happened when Moses went into the mountain to commune with God. They made a golden calf, started worshiping it, and had an orgy. So you might be right.
How'd you join the Globe Society?
I've got a couple of tickets, but it's going to cost you one day.
No doubt he has a couple of tickets. My point being is it's going to end up being some sad philosophy that will end up being some hand job house. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's going to be some nonsense in the future. It's going to be an absolute shadow of its former self.
Okay. Maybe. There will be fringe globe believers. You know, the strength of anti-flat eartherism will build up, and you know, people will come up with their own rhetoric as heliocentric official rhetoric fades. Theirs will take over on the surface, you know, at the public level, rather than the actual official. This is how heliocentric works, with all the orbital motions and such locked away. What gets left on the surface is the stout, devout believers of the heliocentric model, like we experience now as anti-flat earthers. And like I say, they'll come up with their own new narratives to come around, get around obvious and observable flat earth measurements in the same way they do now. But they'll just be a diehard minority group eventually. I don't know about the orgy bit. Have you seen the people who are of that type?
Boone and Craig.
They're not a handsome bunch, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, well, I didn't say I wanted to be there. I'm just saying it'll probably happen.
That's one of the biggest off-puts, isn't it, to participating in, other than the obvious morality. But when you see the other people that will be taking part in the orgy, we've got a couple of swingers that come into the shop, and you think, I'm not be joining your club. I mean, the tales you hear are very debauched, but genuinely, they're not. It's not your A-list celebrities that join these kind of things, is it? It tends to be those that should also be at the Weight Watchers class.
Wait, did you say you got swingers that come into pharmacy?
Oh, yeah, we've got this great couple, and they go to Germany for like bondage clubs and stuff, and also she tells us all the stories.
Have they got personalised number plates?
I don't know whether she has. She got one? Wouldn't surprise me. They're very much, like the couple on Benidorm. The swinger couple. They're just like them two.
Moustache.
No, he was big and cuddly. He's the bloke, isn't he? No moustache on Benidorm. No, you wouldn't pick it. You just think they're a normal elderly couple, but the stories they tell you, it's like, wow.
Why are they telling their pharmacists their stories about depraved sex acts?
Because he's asking them.
Same thing as the hold on. He's like a bartender. But instead of handing out drinks, he hands out Percocets, Percodan, and Vicodin.
They might be coming in for the Viagra.
No, no, more like KY jelly with them two.
I was going to say, have you got any recommendations for removal of a 12-inch dong from my husband's bumhole?
Yes. Yeah. It's all very well and good, innit? But you're not touching my missus.
Yeah, I'm not big on sharing.
Huh.
Absolutely never.
Well, I'm glad we discussed that. You brought it
Depends
up,
on what's
Brian.
Just
scary.
I was going to. A load of fat
I'm just
swingers.
saying, just slightly off subject. I just had a look at that. I mean, it's just a stupid story, but I was just slightly out of town yesterday driving around. I was dropping my good lady off at the hospital, and on the way back, I just it was like a taxi rank, you know, like a little taxi rank in a side street, and the taxi rank was named. It had a big, massive sign outside of it saying "Global Taxis," and I just thought, God, I just had to have a little chuckle to myself. Global Taxis.
What he was going to say, he was on Grove Street.
Grove Road.
Yeah, Grove Road.
Well, you know where the local Globe Earth Society is going to be for you then one day in a few years' time. It's going to be that taxi rank.
The most interesting point today was about the pilots, Brian, that you raised. I mean, I tailed off it off the back of a very good point by saying, well, what would you get out of it? You know what I mean? That is one of those jobs, though, that you say, you've probably got a really nice house, you've got a free ticket to anywhere in the world for a holiday. You know, all the things on most people's lists of stuff that they think in a superficial way are going to make them whole are probably already acquired by most pilots if they're successful. So why the fascination with this? Why the need?
Well, why did Wolfie spend so many years in this arena, and the others now? Because, as I said, they all eventually end up lying to their teeth because they can't or become deadly personal with me. That's been my experience with them. What did Wolfie want? Do you know what I mean? What did he actually want? What was his problem? Do you know what I mean? What was the problem of all the rest of them?
He wants us to shut up. That's it. That's all he wants.
He just wants us to shut up.
Yes.
Simple.
That's all he wants. He just doesn't want us to be here talking about that which deep down he knows to be true and doesn't want to be true. For all the reasons that you've given with respect to pilots. He wants to brace against the awful truth. And he does. And he said he has to eventually lie through his back teeth, what, like the Coriolis button, correcting his plane for the not actual drift he's not experiencing. No. But he'll say it to Anthony in a comment section.
Well, the thing about it is, I have to say that some of the worst personal attacks I got were from some of the pilots. You know, because they were
lose.
because
got most to lose.
It's harder for them. Sorry.
Yeah, got more to lose.
Nathan?
I'm saying they got more to lose.
Yeah. Well, it's harder for them, isn't it? It's harder for them than the Globe, so the average Glober, who is not flying around the place all the time and doesn't really know or have to think about how a plane flies. It's harder for them. They can't not know those things because that's their job. They can't not do those things.
Well, it's a different standard, isn't it? Right. So if you're a Joe Normally, like the guy we had on the politics server, who eventually admitted to just making crap up, the guy said he could figure out this subject in 40 minutes. That is to say that his demeanour is to suggest that if I don't have an overcome for this, there's going to be one out there that I can easily find. Therefore, that's me, Big Billy Balls, knowing that I'm an intellectual, being able to research quickly, and I know I'm right from the get-go. Yeah? He can appeal to information he hasn't yet acquired and be confident in it. Ergo, not really a liar. Not that difficult to be Big Balls when you're appealing to stuff that you just think will back you up post hoc. The pilots know how they're flying their planes. So when you attack their belief it's really glaring to them that it is actually a belief. And they know there's consequences for deviating from that belief that they may or may not want to hold, but appreciate they have. And you just hold a fat mirror up to it, and it disgusts them. That's why you get the worst treatment from them, Brian, because it is painful.
Yeah, I think worse now than, I reckon that they feel it worse than celestial navigators or surveyors. I reckon pilots feel it worse, because if you're navigating on a boat, you're doing all your calculations. You can add in a load of our mathematics, right, into your calculations and pretend you're on a globe, and that might be all you need to do to keep your belief alive. If you're a surveyor, you can add in or after you've done all your measurements, even though you've done the measurements, just like the celestial navigator. You know the measurements are off a flat plane. You know that you're using a flat plane, but you can make it up somehow, right, in your head. You can lose yourself in the details and the maths. When it comes to flying, you're literally flying from up into the air, one place to the other, down, right? If you're not accounting for a rotating globe, then it's not a globe. It's that simple. You can't lose yourself in the mathematics of the situation. You know what I mean? There's only so many charts you can look at, because you're looking straight out the window at the world from a height, and you're looking at the instrumentation showing you, as it needs to show you, that you're flying in a straight line. You know what I mean? Holding an altitude. So if you're holding an altitude and flying in a straight line, that means what's underneath you as a baseline of a straight line. You know what I mean? It must be the hardest, most difficult position to hold as a globe earth believer, being a pilot, because it's the one thing that absolutely proves, without a shadow of a doubt, very quickly and very easily to anyone, that it's not a globe. And I reckon
there's more deep levels to it, though, isn't it? They are subservient to this belief at that point, when they know the consequences as a pilot, if they just accept the reality that they're faced with, rather than being subservient, kept under control. And that must piss them off. If you're someone like Wolfie and you're like, top of the world, I'm a pilot, I'm better than everyone. No, you're subservient to this lie that you must hold. So if you can make it real, it's not a belief that you're holding that you're subservient to. It's just the world and it's real. If only I could shut the flat earthers up, that would be the case, and I could get on with my day. But I can't, because they won't shut up. Just shut them up.
Yeah, but could it be that they don't know the truth? That they're just
They do know, Neil. That's the point.
Earth is flat and
No.
non-rotating, so you can fly properly.
No.
And they think that's what they're doing, but
they're
it's
not
still
doing
globe.
that, though.
What do you
Neil,
mean no?
because
Then
they're
you tell
not.
me every single pilot knows that it's flat.
Just keep going. No, because they're not doing that. That's the point. The reason Brian's just spent 20 minutes going through why it would be hard for the pilots is because it fundamentally defies what they fundamentally do. They're actually dealing with Earth flat, calculating how it's flat, flying over it flat, observing it flat. It's all they do.
At high speeds.
Yeah, but they still think it's a globe.
No, they believe it's a globe, and we're an affront to that belief that they could tuck away in the back of their mind if we weren't holding a mirror up to it all day long. That's why they want rid of us. Pilots, specifically.
Yeah, at present, now maybe I can't speak for what the future is going to hold. At present, they only have one pilot left. There was 5 commercial pilots and 2 private pilots. At present, I only have one left that I know of.
What,
that
Wolfie?
is still commenting. No, he's gone. The pilot that's left is a guy called Trevor Austin. Wolfie, I don't see anymore. Well, to tell the truth, I told Wolfie that if he didn't stop coming to my channel on his second channel and didn't come on his main channel, because that's what he got into, he started coming to my channel on his second channel because he didn't want to come on his main channel because it was making him look bad. So nobody would, if nobody would get to see what's happening to him in comment sections, not with just me, but with the people who are coming to my channel, who are challenging him. You know, like One Deck or whoever could be commenting on a video and they see Wolfie, talking nonsense. They're going to challenge him. So Wolfie, I banned his second channel. I told him he can only come on his main channel, and he never comes. I haven't seen him around for a while, actually. I haven't even seen him commenting on
Yeah,
other
they all
videos
do
for a while,
that.
so I don't know where he is.
They all do that. They
Sorry?
concern themselves
Yeah.
with the credibility of their main channel. So they'll come with a million sock accounts to make up their lies and garbage. It's like, so you know that you're lying and being deceptive when you put forth this argument. Therefore, you'd rather put it forward on a sock account than risk the credibility of your main account. Like, if you actually believe what you were saying, there'd be no need to behave this way. But you need to put these lies into the rhetoric of flat earthers' comment sections. But you don't want to do that on your main account. It's like, yeah, because you know it's not true. And you know it'll affect your credibility when someone else pulls it apart. But you just want the masses to read that comment. So it doesn't matter if it's made by you or just the random sock account. Yeah? But that means that deep down they know there's a reason for having to put it on the sock account's comments rather than their own because of the credibility that they risk. It's like, why would you be risking credibility if what you say is true? Just be true.
Exactly. I mean, I think actually, in fairness, Wolfie didn't make a sock account. He actually made, we call it Wolfie's second or Wolfie's alternative account. But it was still a second account. It wasn't his main account with his 60 or 70,000 or whatever, 100,000 subscribers. It was still his second account. Where the only people that's going to see anything that happens there are going to be your everyday rank and file baller who are all friends with him and they all hang out on Discord, whatever, right? So his main account, that's not banned off my channel. His main account, he can come anytime he wants, but he's not allowed to be there. Now he could be there as on a stock account. I don't know these days, but I haven't seen him on my channel for some time since I banned his second account. And I told him, you're only allowed to come to my channel on your main account. But that won't get banned with your second account, and any other accounts I find out are going to be banned. And he hasn't been around. Now, that I'm aware of. You know, so I'm left with one pilot, 5 commercial pilots, 2 private pilots. And I wouldn't mind only when I started attacking them a few years ago, the first person to attack me, I know the man has passed away now, but the first person to attack me was Bob Nodell. And Wolfie's going to tear you apart, and Wolfie's, you can't, this argument's no good, blah, blah, blah. And ever since then, like, the pilots came at me like crazy and they've all had to disappear. There's only one left, and he's proven himself. He's had this one that's left. The guy who's left actually used to wish me happy Christmas 2 years ago, right? And he's now, after getting to the point where he's just straight out lying and trolling me. You know, he used to have conversations with me up to a point, as much as you could have with a baller, right? And he was somewhat loyal to me. But because over time, he can't prove his claims. And every time he tries to get smart with me, I just ask him for the pitch data. And now he's just turned into a lawyer and a troll. And that's what normally happens. And bit by bit, they disappear. So he'll probably disappear eventually.
Yeah. Well, it's painful for them.
So, bottom up disappearance from Brian, or
yeah, bottom up disappearance. Good one, Adam.
I heard, Nathan, if you get 100,000 followers, that people will believe in flat Earth. But if you lose the followers, then Earth will start to curve.
Yeah, that's an appeal to consensus. Yeah, I mean, I agree. People appeal to consensus, right?
Yeah, but if you reach more followers, I think that Earth will be flat then.
So wait, if that didn't happen, say they didn't get together and say we have to do something about this flat Earth. Say it didn't happen. Where do you think you would be right now? Subscriber-wise and people coming to your show?
You love tormenting yourself, don't you, Neil? Can't take that attitude because you become bitter.
I'm just curious.
I'd be a millionaire and have 1 million subscribers, Neil. What do you want me to say?
Well, you were going in a certain way, right? The trajectory was going up before that happened, but then you had the Bob Nodell thing too, where you hurt yourself for righteousness' sake and truth's sake, which I commend you for. But sometimes I'm just curious to where flat Earth debate would be.
I don't know, Neil. I can only speculate, which is what you're asking me to do. But speculation about what could be if I wasn't suppressed by YouTube or wronged by Bob No Doubt. You could drive yourself nuts doing that. I can only look at the stats and go, am I growing or not? Oh, I'm not. I better make a few more videos then. Oh, I'm growing again. Good. That's it.
Well, I'll do it for you.
What?
Brian, did you
would
say
be
Bob
the top
Nodell?
station.
Brian, did you say that Bob Nodell told you that level flight being a horizontal was an argument they would tear you apart on?
Yeah, Bob Nodell basically was the first person. He started privately contacting me on Skype, telling me to take down my video, the first video I made about Wolfie, and challenging Wolfie on an aspect of life. To take down my video, Wolfie's going to destroy you. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I didn't take down my video. I knew what I was talking about. And I proved them all wrong. They were all attacking. And what was funny is they attacked points in the video, several of them, that were wrong, that I was right, like they were wrong. They're supposed to know how to fly. And I showed them. Well, I made a second video and showed all my citations. And they all shut up about it. They started attacking other things. So you kind of have to ask good questions, isn't it? Like these were simple things. How can you get that wrong? Like they were attacking me for saying that thrust creates lift, which it does. Thrust generates lift. You know, with an airplane. You know what I mean? They were all attacking me on that. And I had to actually cite it in the next video. You know, I think it was from Boeing or something. So, but Bob Nodell was attacking me and you're going to get destroyed. Take that down, Wolfie, you'll destroy it. You know what I mean? You don't know what you're talking about. When I knew exactly what I was talking about. That's what I got off Bob Nodell at the time.
Oh, he was doing it in a way where he was making like he's looking out for you, like you're going to get destroyed on this point. But meanwhile, you knew what you were talking about. So that makes me wonder about him.
Well, maybe the real problem was that Bob Nodell couldn't handle Wolfie. That was the real problem. I could handle Wolfie, no bother, but Bob Nodell maybe couldn't. Maybe he couldn't. Bob Nodell was a private pilot. Like, I mean, I found it no bother at all to handle Wolfie.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I know why he did it, but that's an odd thing to say.
Well, I don't know what the problem was. By looking at the video, you should, like anyone who is a pilot should go, yeah. I mean, you can't argue with that. And yes.
Unless you have an agenda.
Well, I don't know what was going on with him, but he didn't want me to keep that video up there. And he joined in, like he literally joined in with Wolfie and then attacking me. Like.
May I ask you if it had to deal with 15 degrees an hour deviation?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I just, because I was only really attacking, the
Neil,
stuff like
Neil,
that.
can you mute? Neil. Hold on a second. I'll mute all. Just unmute yourself.
You're going to need a flat plane for those 15 degree an hour.
Brian, you've been muted as well.
That...
Okay, you've figured it out. Good.
All right.
The reason I ask is because of the the Ethereum's position. They hold to a 15 degrees an hour deviation belief. Is that possibly why he said that?
I don't think so, because I was mostly focusing on the pitch issue. Do you know what I mean? It was mostly focusing on that, and how trust is, how lift is created, and bit by bit, I broke it purely. I just broke the whole thing down to just the lift effect. I didn't have to, bit by bit over a course of different videos. But I wasn't really going after the rotation. That was a secondary thing. I was mostly focusing on the curvature issue, and pitch. So I can't say that there was any connection there to 15 degrees per hour. Well, I wasn't thinking that way either, John, so it may have been.
Yeah, that's odd then. If there wasn't something fundamental to his belief, why wouldn't he just, I don't know. That is weird.
Maybe he didn't realize what was actually in the video. Maybe he didn't realize, because as I said, several of the other pilots, there was 3 or 4 of them at the time, and I added 1 or 2 later. It called me out on things that they were wrong about. I had to prove them wrong in my next video. So maybe he just didn't realize what was actually being said. I don't know.
Yeah, can't really speculate on it. And you just kind of point out how that's weird. Why would a flat earther tell you that pointing out that flight requires a flat plane be told that they were wrong?
Well, it depends what datum you're talking about.
Because he had an agenda. The agenda's still strong, too, if you listen to them.
Was the datum thing a joke? I thought it was pretty funny, but I've gotten to the point where I can't even tell if people are joking anymore.
Yeah, it was a joke. Yeah.
It's bad. It's like people say things in this debate, and you can't assume that they're joking anymore. It's sad.
Well, if you listen to that 9-hour marathon yesterday, when Nathan played it back, you can hear some of the things that were being said. Boy, felt like I was thrown back into 2015.
The Globers have become a parody of themselves. So.
Again?
Oh, the Globers have become a parody of themselves at this point.
Yeah, they have. The people that try to argue this have just taken it to absurdity.
Yeah, well, look at the guy that was going through Einstein's paper.
I haven't read it, but I know you're wrong.
Exactly.
Well, there's a lot of pre-assumption out there that because you're a flat earther, you must be wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't be right if you're a flat earther. And that's the thing. It's like your man Charlie Kirk. It's like, oh, I know maths, so that means that I'm not a flat earther. This kind of stupid nonsense. It's this pre-assumption that people have.
I would have loved it if it was Adam asking that question and said, well, I'm pretty good at maths too. You want to break it down for me? If not, I would like to break down flat Earth for you.
I would have liked to have been the next guy in the queue after he said that about math.
Yeah. How do you think he would respond to somebody of our ilk, the next man in the queue? How would he have responded to that? I bet he would not have known what the hell we were talking about.
So he would have got the security to escort you out.
That is what I think would happen.
But that's absolutely what would have happened. There's no way he's hearing you out. There's no way he's going to do that. You're getting talked out of that building.
and they would all applaud it. But meanwhile, he's looked into it for 30 seconds, and he would have more authority than you that has looked into it for over 10 freaking years. What does that tell you?
That he didn't look into it. That's how that tells me, isn't it?
I was trying to get at the deck is stacked against us.
The earth is horizontal and level, but not flat.
Is there a show today, QE?
Yeah, there will be.
Is it on the Septuagint?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Septuagint.
That's sort of like the Principia.
Yeah.
We'll be tentative today because there's some bad storms that are possible. So right around showtime. So if it goes down, you know what happened.
You seem to be getting hit with a lot of bad storms where you're at.
Well, there's a potential for bad storms. I don't trust those guys, so I have to keep one eye on the show and one eye out for that. Hopefully my guys are, I have a team of weather guys to come on YouTube when there's bad weather. Take care of everything.
I don't get that.
You don't get it?
No, went over my head.
Yeah, the weather usually does.
Oh, good one.
So, as I was being cheeky, I looked it up. It is 72.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I knew there was a reason. So within the historical description of why there's that many people, it was 6 scribes from each of the 12 tribes. So it's 6 times 12.
Oh, I got you. So they just rounded lower.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew there was a reason. I remembered it as the Septuagint.
Too funny.
That didn't sound like a concession, Adam.
Too funny. That's as good as you're going to get off of QE, isn't it? So, I'll take that all day long.
I told you the other day that it's possible that there were a few more. I'm not going to die on that hill.
No, I knew you were. I couldn't remember why I thought it wasn't 70, even though I knew. You know what I mean? And I had to look it up. It's 6 from each tribe.
That makes okay. Cool.
Forget about that. What about the guy that has the what do you call that thing again? The gyroscope. Anybody get in touch with him?
He's disappeared, hasn't he, Brian? He contacted me saying, "Are you free tonight?" I says, "Not a chance, mate. Horace to playing." And he said, "All right." And I've contacted him since, but I've not had a response back. And Brian said he had a problem and all. Rob Durham, you mean?
Rob, yeah. For some reason or another, I had set up some a Friday night some weeks ago that we would all kind of get together. Not set up, but I said it to Bob, would you be okay for this Friday? You know, that me and himself and Adam and maybe QE or whatever can have a chat. And I was waiting for him to get back to me, and I didn't hear anything from him. So I went looking for him that Friday evening, and he was gone missing off his Skype. I couldn't find any communication between me and him. Couldn't find him on Master-B or anywhere else. Couldn't find him through a search. Then Saturday daytime, the next day, I see his response to me. That he had responded to me a day or two earlier, a couple of days earlier, that he was on for it. And I was like, I had to say to him, Rob, I don't know what's going on, but you weren't to be found yesterday evening when I was looking to see if you responded to me. And I didn't see, you know what I mean? Suddenly the next day, which is Saturday, suddenly he's there. So I don't know what was going on. So I said, I just pretty assumed that Skype were then messing around with me, like YouTube and Google and everything else does, GeoGebra does. So I said, what I'll do is I told him I'd leave it up to Adam. I said, I'll put it in Adam's hands to organise it. And now, Adam, from what you're saying now, that he's not there now for you. I don't know what's going on now.
I'll tell you what's going on. QE's right, and he's wrong.
What?
But it's not him, Neil. I don't know what it is. It was Skype for me, not Rob. It was Skype that were hiding Rob from me, and he's replied to me until the day after I needed to see it.
I don't think Rob's hiding from anyone.
Yeah, I don't think so. Neil, you're a little troublemaker, ain't you?
Well, what the hell? It's freaking boring. Looking for a fight here.
We'll take you to Iran.
Not a real fight.
No, I thought
Too old for that.
I got to say, when I think it was Adam broke down the datum point on that guy, that was great, because like you made it really understandable for the layman. And it was hilarious when we were like, why wouldn't we use a flat plane datum when we're measuring a flat plane? He wanted to put it on a globe datum.
It was cheeky the way he introduced that. But that was his undoing, wasn't it? That's where I got him, QE, with rate of change of slope, to demonstrate that he wasn't a surveyor. I think that was his claim, wasn't it? Or someone else's
No, that wasn't that guy, Adam. There was a different guy who was claiming to be a surveyor. Not that guy. That's two separate info.
Was the datum guy separate? Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that is separate.
Yeah.
The rate of change of slope guy was good too. I just heard that again yesterday.
So that's taped. So that's taped on the big show. Is he going to run it 9 hours?
The 9 hour comedy special. Yeah, the 9 hour comedy special.
I heard everything. It was perfectly clear. Thanks. So, is this going to be on the 9 hour show?
Victory Royale!
Again.
Yes, it is.
All right, thanks.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!